మంచి క్లాస్ వస్తుంది సార్ ఇప్పుడు.
రమణ గారు గుడ్ మార్నింగ్.
గుడ్ మార్నింగ్ గోవిందరావు గారు.
బాగున్నారా సార్? బాగున్నాం సార్. మీరు బాగున్నారా సార్?
గారు ఏ రాష్ట్రంలో ఉన్నారు?
విజయవాడ అండి, విజయవాడలో ఉన్నాం.
విజయవాడలో ఉన్నారా? ఇప్పుడే అనుకున్నాం రామయ్య గారు జాబ్ లాటరీ అయిపోయాడు, ఎక్కడ కనపట్లేదండి.
అదే లింక్ ఇచ్చారు, దాంతో కొంచెం అది సెట్ అయ్యేటప్పుడు టైం పట్టింది.
అచ్చా అదే లింక్ డైరెక్ట్ గా ఓపెన్ అయిపోతుంది, లింక్ మీద క్లిక్ చేస్తారు.
మరి ఈ వర్చువల్ సమావేశాలు వచ్చిన తర్వాత ఈ విధానం కూడా కరెక్ట్ గా లేదు. వర్చువల్ ఇది పంపించండి అని చెప్పడం, లింక్ పెట్టు అంటే ఎవరికి లింక్ పెట్టాలో అర్థం కాదు.
ఫిజికల్ మీటింగ్స్ ఇంకా ప్లాన్ చేసుకోవచ్చు అన్న.
శ్రీనివాసరావు గారు
ఒకప్పుడు లింక్ పెడుతున్నాడు అంటే వెనక్కి దగ్గర రానిచ్చేవాళ్ళు కాదు, ఇప్పుడు లింక్ లేకపోతే దగ్గర రావట్లేదు.
సూపర్ సార్.
ఈ లింకులు ఏ లింకుల గురించి మాట్లాడిన ఇంట్లో వాళ్ళకి ఏ లింకుల మీద అనుమానం రావట్లేదు, అది సంతోషపడాలా.
అర్థమైపోయింది, లింక్ మాట్లాడిన వాళ్ళకేం తెలియదు.
సిద్ధం సెట్ అన్న, ఇంతకు ముందు లింక్ అట్లా కాదు, ఇప్పుడు లింక్ పెట్టకపోతే అన్ఫిట్ అంటున్నారు.
అది
టెక్నికల్ పర్సన్ కింద గుర్తించట్లేదు లింకులు పెట్టలేకపోతే.
అది
ఇప్పుడు లింక్ పెట్టినోడే టెక్నికల్ పర్సన్.
ఈ లింకుల గురించి ఎందుకు గానీ నమస్కారం. సో మనకి టైము ఎలాగూ ఇది అన్ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ టైం దొరికింది, వీళ్ళు స్టార్ట్ చేసే వరకు మనము మాట్లాడుకోవడానికి. దీంట్లో
ఒక చిన్న కారణం లైవ్ పోతుంది మొత్తం చెప్పాలి.
లైవ్
మళ్ళీ రికార్డింగ్ ఆన్ అయిపోయింది,
యూట్యూబ్ లో మనం ఎడిట్ చేసి
లైవ్ పోతుంది ఫస్ట్
ఎడిట్ చేసేయచ్చు, దాని ఇబ్బంది ఏం లేదు.
సో నేను ఏమంటున్నానంటే, ఇప్పుడు సెంట్రల్ వాళ్ళు మనకి ఒక ఇంట్రెస్ట్ నోటీసులని అందరికీ ఇస్తున్నారు, మీకు కూడా వచ్చి ఉంటాయి. దీంట్లో విచిత్రం ఏంటంటే, వాళ్ళకి కరోనా టైంలో మనకి ఇచ్చిన రిలాక్సేషన్ టైంని కూడా లెక్క చేయకుండా ఆ నోటిఫికేషన్లు పక్కన పెట్టేసి ఆ పీరియడ్ లో కూడా ఇంట్రెస్ట్ క్యాల్కులేట్ చేసి నోటీసులు ఇస్తున్నారు. ఏంటి అని మనం అడిగితే మీరు రిప్లై రాయండి అంటున్నారు.
అన్న మాకు కూడా నెల్లూరులో సేమ్ అదే పరిస్థితి, కాకపోతే సెంట్రల్ వాళ్ళు కాదు స్టేట్ వాళ్ళు.
సరే స్టేట్ ది మాట్లాడదాం, సెంట్రల్ వరకు అయితే ఇప్పుడు వస్తున్నాయి. అయితే ఇక్కడ ఏం జరుగుతుందంటే, వాళ్ళు ఒక పనికి వాళ్ళని పనిచేసి దాన్ని మనం రిప్లై అడగడం చాలా ఘోరం. ఒకటి ఏంటంటే, ఒక లంసమ్ అమౌంట్ ఇస్తున్నారు వాళ్ళు మళ్ళా, అంటే యు ఆర్ లయబుల్ టు పే సో అండ్ సో ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ జూలై 2017 టు అక్టోబర్ 2021 అంటాడు. అంటే ఏ నెలకు వాడు ఇంత ఇంట్రెస్ట్ వేసాడో కూడా దే ఆర్ నాట్ ప్రొవైడింగ్ అంటిల్ అండ్ అన్లెస్ ఎవరన్నా కొద్దిగా గట్టిగా మాట్లాడి అడిగితే మాత్రం మెయిల్ పెడుతున్నారు మళ్ళా. లేకుంటే మీరే వెతుక్కోండి, మీరు ఎప్పుడు కట్టారో మీకు తెలియదా అంటున్నారు. అంటే 48 months మనం వెతకలేం కదా. సో దీని మీద కొంచెం అందరూ అంటే కన్సల్టెంట్స్ అందరూ బాగా ఇబ్బంది పడుతున్నారు. అసలే మార్చ్ ఫిబ్రవరి టఫ్ టైంలో ఉన్నాం అందరం. అలాంటి టైంలో ఈ విషయంలో బాగా ఇబ్బంది పడుతున్నారు. అలాగే మన వెంకట్ చెప్పినట్టుగా మీ దగ్గర స్టేట్ లో నోటీసులు వచ్చినట్టే మా దగ్గర కూడా స్టేట్ లో మార్చి రాగానే మామూలే వాళ్ళకి ఏది మన ఓల్డ్ ఏరియాస్ అని ఇవ్వటం ఒక నోటీసులు, అవి మనం కట్టామని వాళ్ళకి అందిస్తాము, మళ్ళీ వాటిని రౌండ్ చేసుకోవటం, మళ్ళీ అడగటం. ఇప్పుడు లెగసీ ఏరియాస్ మీద నడుస్తుంది మా దగ్గర కూడా తెలంగాణ స్టేట్ లో. సో అది కూడా అంతే, 90% ప్రాక్టీషనర్స్ సఫర్ అవుతున్నారు కట్టిన వాటికి మళ్ళీ రిప్లైలు ఇవ్వడం అని ఇవన్నీ. సో దీనికి ఒక మెకానిజం వాళ్ళ దగ్గర ఏం లేదు. వాళ్ళు యాక్చువల్గా చెప్పాలంటే మనం కట్టింది తీసుకొని దాన్ని వాళ్ళ డీసీబీలో పెట్టి దాన్ని రిమూవ్ చేయాలి డిమాండ్ని, కానీ వాళ్ళు చెయ్యట్లేదు. సో ఈ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ తోటి ప్రస్తుతం మన ప్రాక్టీషనర్ సోదరులందరూ ఇబ్బంది పడుతున్నారు. వాళ్ళకి సంఘీభావంగా వాళ్ళందరికీ అంటే తెలంగాణ స్టేట్ వరకు నేను ప్రామిస్ చేస్తున్నాము ఏంటంటే, ఆల్రెడీ సెంట్రల్ కమిషనర్కి ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఇచ్చాము ఈ విషయంలో, స్టేట్ కమిషనర్ కూడా మాట్లాడుతున్నాము. రేపు మండే అపాయింట్మెంట్ ఇస్తే అక్కడికి కూడా వెళ్తాము, మోస్ట్లీ రావచ్చు. సో ఈ లెగసీ నోటీసుల మీద అట్లాగే ఈ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఏదైతే కోవిడ్ టైంది వాళ్ళు ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఇస్తే ఇవ్వనివ్వండి, కానీ మరి కోవిడ్ టైంలో వాళ్ళు ఇచ్చిన నోటిఫికేషన్ ప్రకారం మనం వేసిన 5 crores బిలో వాళ్ళకి కూడా ఆ పీరియడ్ కి నోటీసులు ఇంట్రెస్ట్ కట్టమని లేట్ అయిందని ఇవ్వటం శోచనీయం. అందరికీ సంఘీభావం ప్రకటిస్తూ నా సోదరులందరికీ ఈ విషయంలో వీలైనంత కృషి చేద్దాం. మన ఇరు రాష్ట్రాలు ఒకటేసారి ఇలాంటి సమస్యలను ఎదుర్కోవడం చాలా దురదృష్టకరం. విల్ ఫైట్ ఇట్. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్.
సార్ మంచి సూచన సార్. సార్ బిఫోర్ the issue, would like to bring to your kind notice, like many of the participants or belongs to other states, those who have not having a proper idea about the Telugu language. Till now, it is your kind notice that only the discussion about an individual, like personal discussion is going on. Till now, the session has not been started. The session will be start with the English language only. Kindly request Rajesh Kumar sir to wait up to for a while, which we can continue in English itself. It is only an internal discussion about the proper notices which the authority has issued.
ID.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Nagesh sir.
అది మీ మెయిల్ పంపించండి లింక్.
Nagesh sir. Nagesh na.
అన్మ్యూట్ చేయండి సార్ నగేష్ గారు
చెప్పండి.
ఇది మెయిన్లీ ఇంకొక ఇష్యూ ఏమంటే, నోటిఫికేషన్స్ అనేవి కానీ సర్క్యులర్స్ అనేవి కానీ ఏవి కూడా ఒక ప్రాపర్ గా ఎక్కడ కూడా మనకి ఒకే నోటిఫికేషన్ మీద కంటిన్యూటీగా దాని మీద ఒక అమెండ్మెంట్ లాగా రాలేదు. ఈ నోటిఫికేషన్ ని మనం ఏదైతే సబ్స్టిట్యూట్ చేయడము దాని మీద ఇంకొకటి సూపర్ సెలెక్ట్ చేస్తే ఇంకోటి కానీ ఇచ్చి కనుక ఉండి ఉంటే ఇంత ఇష్యూస్ అయ్యి ఉండవు. ఇప్పుడు పొజిషన్ ఎట్లా ఉందంటే 4A సర్వీస్ ట్యాక్స్ లో ఉండేది. ఇలా తయారైపోవటం వల్ల ఏమైందంటే 2017 జూలై నుంచి ఈ రోజు దాకా ఉండేటటువంటి నోటిఫికేషన్స్ లో అసలు ఏ పీరియడ్ నుంచి ఎంతవరకు ఇంట్రెస్ట్ అనేటటువంటి దాన్ని మధ్యలో ఎప్పుడు ఎగ్జామ్షన్ ఇచ్చారు, మళ్ళీ మార్పులు చేశారనే విషయం మీద ఒక క్లారిటీగా మనం పూర్తిగా దాని మీద ఆడిటర్స్ చాలా మంది కూడా అవగాహన లేకపోవడం వల్ల కాంప్రమైజ్ మెథడ్ లో వెళ్ళి రిక్వెస్ట్ చేసుకునే పరిస్థితులు కూడా గమనిస్తూ ఉన్నాం మనం. మరి దారుణం ఏంటంటే వర్క్స్ కాంట్రాక్ట్ లో ఎస్పెషల్లీ ఇప్పుడు సప్లై ఆఫ్ గూడ్స్ మీద కొన్ని కాంట్రాక్ట్స్ ఎస్పెషల్లీ సప్లై ఆఫ్ గూడ్స్ లో 5% ఉంది. అంటే ఎస్పెషల్లీ కొన్ని ఐడెంటిఫైడ్ కంపెనీస్ కి ఏదైతే కార్పొరేట్స్ ఉన్నాయో వాటికి ఇచ్చారు, పబ్లిక్ లిమిటెడ్స్ లో కొన్నింటికి, అంటే ఎస్పెషల్లీ ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్స్ కి. అటువంటి వాటి మీద కూడా డిపార్ట్మెంట్ ఈజ్ అబ్జెక్టింగ్ టు లెవీ ద టాక్సెస్. రీజన్ లేదు, అందరు ఇప్పుడు అపీల్స్ కి వెళ్తా ఉన్నారు. పండగ ఎవరికి ఉంటుందంటే ఎవరు అపీల్స్ కి అప్రోచ్ అవుతున్నారో వాళ్ళందరికీ పండుగ అవుతుంది. అఫ్ కోర్స్ ఇట్ ఈస్ లిటిగేషన్ ఉంది, కానీ అన్ఫార్చునేట్లీ ఇప్పుడు సిచ్యువేషన్ ఏమైందంటే నోటీసులు వస్తున్నాయి, రిప్లైలు ఇచ్చినా ఇవ్వకపోయినా దేని మీద ఆర్డర్లు అయితే పాస్ కావట్లా. బికాస్ ఆర్డర్ పాస్ కాకపోవడానికి కారణం ఏంటంటే రేపు ఫర్దర్ గా ఎవరైనా హైకోర్టుకి వీటికి వెళ్తే మళ్ళీ ఏదన్నా డిపార్ట్మెంట్ కి అగెనిస్ట్ గా వస్తుందనే భయం కూడా డిపార్ట్మెంట్ కి ఉంది. దాని మీద కూడా టెన్షన్ ఉంది వాళ్ళకి. వాళ్ళు ఆర్డర్ ఇవ్వటం లేదు, నోటీస్ ఇచ్చి వదిలేస్తున్నారు, డీలర్ని టెన్షన్ పెట్టేస్తున్నారు, డీలర్ కాంటాక్ట్ చేసి డీలర్ని ఇబ్బంది పెడుతున్నారు. మనం ఇచ్చే రిప్లై మీద ఆన్సర్ ఉండదు, నువ్వు ఎందుకు కట్టలేదని వాడిని నేర్పుకు తింటున్నారు. ఇది పెద్ద ఇష్యూ అయింది. ఇంకొకటి ఏంటంటే 1 or 2 days డిలే కూడా సెంట్రల్ ట్యాక్స్ నుంచి ఎస్పెషల్లీ తెలంగాణలో మన క్లయింట్స్ ఉన్న వాళ్ళకి కంటిన్యూగా అడిషనల్ కమిషన్ నుంచి కాల్స్ వస్తున్నాయి. ఏమంటే మీరు 2 days డిలే చేశారు, మీరు పెద్ద ట్యాక్స్ పేయర్స్, మీరు ఇంత ట్యాక్స్ కట్టాలి, మీరు ఈ టైం లోపల కట్టుకోవాలి. ఇటువంటివి అవగాహన పెడితే ఏమంటున్నారంటే 1 or 2 days కూడా వాళ్ళు ప్రాపర్ గా ఇష్యూ చేయడం, ఇబ్బంది పెట్టడం అనేది స్టార్ట్ అవుతారు. ఇవి రెగ్యులర్ అయితే ఉన్నాయన్న, చాలా లిటిగేషన్స్ అయితే స్టార్ట్ అయినాయి.
స్మాల్ కరెక్షన్, డీలర్స్ ని టెన్షన్ లో పెట్టడం కాదు, డీలర్స్
ఎట్టా పడుతున్నారు, అది వేరే విషయం.
అంటే మనం ఇక్కడ మన గ్రూపే మాట్లాడదాము. వాడు ఒక 1% టెన్షన్ పడితే మన వాళ్ళు 99% పడుతున్నారు
అన్న. దాని రీజన్ ఏంటంటే మనకు ఒక ఆఫీసర్ నుంచి కాకుండా డీలర్ నుంచి కూడా ఒత్తిడి ఉందన్న. ఎందుకంటే ఆఫీసర్ డీలర్ కి ఫోన్ చేస్తున్నాడు, రీజన్ తెలియదు పాపం, అతనికి అవగాహన ఉండదు. ఆఫీసర్ కి ఇక్కడ ఏం అవగాహన, ఆఫీసర్ ఒత్తిడి చేయడం కానీ డీలర్ ఏం సార్ ఇది మనల్ని అడగడం, మేము ఆల్రెడీ రిప్లై ఇచ్చామన్నా కూడా వాళ్ళు కన్విన్స్ కావట్లేదు కొంతమంది. ఈ సిచ్యువేషన్ మీరు అన్నట్టుగా అల్టిమేట్ సఫరర్స్ మాత్రం ఆడిటర్స్, దాంట్లో డౌట్ లేదు. అది సార్ కుమార్ సార్, కెన్ వి 73 పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ అయినారు.
ఇప్పుడు తెలుగు రాని వాళ్ళు ఎవరిలో ఉంటే కనుక చేతులు ఎత్తును.
అది ఎట్లా వస్తారన్నా?
we can identify తెలుగు రాని వాళ్ళు ఎవరైతే ఉన్నారో వాళ్ళని ఐడెంటిఫై చేయొచ్చు.
సార్ I kindly request the participants, those who have who didn't have an idea about the Telugu language, can raise their hands, sir. Please. Everidi screen share.
నాదే
Cut cheyandi. Sir, other than the Telugu languages, participants. అనేది కట్ చేస్తేనే మనకు ఐడియా వస్తుంది అన్న ఎవరు అనేది.
అన్న మీరు మాట్లాడండి, సునీల్ మీరు మాట్లాడండి, హైలైట్ మీరే అన్నారు.
పర్లేదు, మనం పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ లిస్ట్ చూస్తే హ్యాండ్ రైజ్ చేసిన వాళ్ళు పైకి వచ్చేస్తారు.
Now I think one Mr. Rajesh Kumar Kurana, sir.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I was a little away. Since you told that you will be starting a little later, so I just went a little away doing something else.
From, sir? You are from, sir?
I am from Delhi.
Oh, hearty welcome, sir. Hearty welcome.
Thank you very much.
Very great.
ఇప్పుడు మన
Speaking is nice. Thank you.
పిలుస్తాను. నాన్నగారు దాంట్లో రావట్లేదు.
So friends, very good morning to all of you. So very good morning to all of you. In continuation of our sessions, which we are continuing to conduct on direct taxes and indirect taxes on behalf of AP Taxpayer Association, Telangana Tax Practitioners Association, and APTPC, Andhra Pradesh Tax Practitioners and Consultants Association. Today, many of the practitioners having difficulty about the new notifications issued on December 2021, which actually it's really a big challenge to all the consultants regarding especially about two issues. One, it is about the Rule 21A about the suspension of the registration, and especially about the issues on 2A and 2B. Especially those, even the purchaser who is purchasing the goods by paying the full tax to the supplier, if supplier is not going to upload the invoice or not going to pay the tax, the ultimate sufferer is by the purchaser, which actually it is becoming a cascade effect to him to pay the tax in multi times, because he is paying to the supplier and also to the government again by reversing that input tax credit. Such a scenario, it is mandatory to have a proper discussion about the further proceedings by the consultants about the situations what they are going to face from the authorities. In this concern, it's my privilege to invite our beloved chairman of today's session, Sri PV Subba Rao garu, is here with us. I'm hearty welcome to PV Subba Rao, sir. He's actually a enthusiastic person. Even we never feel that he is a 71 or something. He's a 17 only. Like every time he's motivating.
76.
Sir, 76. But I feel it is sweet 16 only, sir. Like you are motivating us like that only every moment and every occasion. Thank you so much, sir. And another father of our tax consultants is Mr. MVK Murthy, sir. I think sir is not with us. Today, he is going to take the role of over commentary on seminar. I kindly hearty welcome to MVK Murthy sir also, and especially on behalf of Telangana Tax Practitioners and Consultants Association, I kindly invite Nagesh Rangi sir garu, the president of the Telangana Tax Practitioners, who is going to opening the issue this is going to remark about this opening comments and today. And I hearty welcome to see Sanjeev Rao garu on behalf of AP Tax Practitioners and Consultants Association, who is the secretary of the association. Today he will also be with us to address the opening remarks. And last, I cannot say it is, but not least, today is our beloved speaker and the president of AP Tax Bar Association, and my beloved brother and many issues wherever it is been raised is giving such a solutions to all of us is none other than MVJK Kumar sir, who is the speaker of today's session. I kindly invite him. Sir, good morning to all of you. Very good morning to all of you, sir. And below all the association members who is joining with us and came all the way, who joined all the way from other states also is with us. Hearty welcome to all of you, sir. Now it's my privilege to invite our President of the AP Tax Bar Association, Kumar sir. Kumar sir.
Yes, Sunil. Yes.
Yeah. Please proceed with the opening remarks, sir.
Opening remarks. As far as I'm concerned,
is only an invitation to all.
Because I am the speaker.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Invitation will be done.
Yeah, as a protocol, it's just to be invite you as the president of the association. That's the reason I call you, sir. Yeah. Now it's a time to our Nagesh sir to address the gathering about this session to give his opening remarks. Thank you. Please unmute, sir. Please unmute Nagesh sir.
అందరికీ నమస్కారాలండి. ఎక్సెప్ట్ మన ఢిల్లీ మిత్రుడు ఇందాక ఒక్కలే ఉన్నట్టుగా కనబడింది, అదర్ దెన్ తెలుగు లాంగ్వేజ్. సో మిగతా వాళ్ళందరూ తెలుగే కనుక ఐ కమ్యూనికేట్ ఇన్ తెలుగు ఓన్లీ. సారీ సార్ ఫర్ ఢిల్లీ మెంబర్. అయితే విషయం ఏంటంటే ఈరోజు ఇందాక మన సునీల్ గారు చెప్పినట్టుగా ఈ రూల్ 21 మీద మన ఈ సెషన్ ని కండక్ట్ చేసే ముందు కుమార్ గారు ఫోన్ చేశారు, మాట్లాడారు. ఇట్స్ రియల్లీ అందరూ ఇబ్బంది పడుతున్న దాన్ని బర్నింగ్ టాపిక్ తీసుకొని దీని మీద చెప్పడానికి ఆయన ముందుకు రావడం చాలా సంతోషం. ఇక ఫస్ట్ మనం ఈ మీటింగ్ కు చైర్మన్ గా వ్యవహరిస్తున్న పివి సుబ్బారావు సార్కి విత్ చాలా సభాముఖంగా ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నా. ఎందుకంటే ఈ రోజు ఫ్రెటర్నిటీలో చాలా మంది చదవడానికి ఇబ్బంది పడుతూ ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తున్నారు. ఇబ్బంది అంటే చదవడం రాక కాదు, బద్దకించో టైం లేకనో. సో అలాంటి చాలా మందికి ఇమ్మీడియట్ గా ఏదన్నా డౌట్ వచ్చినా, రెఫరెన్స్ వచ్చినా పేరు ఊరు లేకుండా కూడా ఆయన ఆ ప్రశ్న పెడితే, ఆ ప్రశ్న సహేతుకంగా ఉంటే అతను ఎవరో కూడా అడగకుండా జవాబిచ్చే ఏకైక వ్యక్తి ఈరోజు మా పివి సుబ్బారావు సారు. ఆయన మా అదృష్టం. మాకు చీఫ్ అడ్వైజర్ గా టీటీపీ చెప్తున్నారు. ప్రతి మూమెంట్ లో కూడా ఆయన సలహాలు చక్కగా తోడ్పడతాయి ఫ్రెటర్నిటీకి. సార్ చైర్మన్ గా వివరించడం మా అదృష్టం. యంగ్స్టర్ మన కుమారు ఇప్పుడు మన ప్రాక్టీషనర్స్ పడే ఇబ్బందులన్నీ కూడా తనకి కనబడుతుంటాయి. ఎందుకంటే మన ఇబ్బందులు నెక్స్ట్ వాళ్ళ దృష్టికే వెళ్తాయి అప్పీల్స్ లో. అందుకని ఆయన దీని మీద స్పీకర్ గా రావడం చాలా సంతోషం. నాకు తెలుసు మన తెలంగాణ ఏపీ ప్రాక్టీషనర్స్ అందరూ కూడా ఈ పర్టికులర్ ఈ రూల్ 21 మీద ఈ కార్యక్రమం అటెండ్ అయ్యి వాళ్ళు డెఫినెట్ గా లాభం పొందుతారని ఆశిస్తున్నాను. అండ్ యాజ్ ప్రామిస్డ్ ఇన్ ద లాస్ట్ మీటింగ్ కుమార్ గారు తప్పకుండా కలిసి చేద్దామని ఈ ప్రోగ్రామ్ ని ముందుకు తీసుకెళ్తున్నారు. సార్ చాలా ధన్యవాదాలు. అలాగే డాక్టర్ ఎంవికే మూర్తి గారు మన దగ్గర మధ్యలో ఇప్పుడు ఇంకా రాకపోవచ్చు, బట్ సార్ నమస్కారం, థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్. మీరు కూడా బాగా ప్రోత్సహిస్తున్నారు. అండ్ ఏపీ అక్కడ కూడా రామరాజ్ శ్రీనివాసరావు గారికి, నా మిత్రులందరికీ థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్ ట్యాక్స్ ప్రాక్టీషనర్స్ ఇన్ దిస్ వండర్ఫుల్ సెషన్. థ్యాంక్స్ అలాట్.
Thank you so much, sir. It's my pleasure to invite our APTPA secretary and co-host of the session, Sri Sanjeev Rao Garu, to address the gathering to give his opening remarks, sir. Please. Sanjeev Rao Garu. Yeah.
Very good morning to all of you. ఇలాంటి సెషన్స్, ఎడ్యుకేటివ్ సెషన్స్ కండక్ట్ చేయడంలో మూర్తి గారు, సుబ్బారావు గారు మనందరికీ ఎప్పుడు వెన్నంటి, ఎవరికి ఎటువంటి ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చినా కూడా వెంటనే దాన్ని క్లారిఫై చేసి మన ఫ్రాటర్నిటీకి వెన్నంటుండి చాలా సహకరిస్తున్నారు. ఈ లాస్ట్ సెషన్ లో మన కుమార్ గారు చెప్పినట్టు అందరూ మనందరూ అసోసియేషన్ లో కలిసి ఒక ప్లాట్ఫామ్ కింద ఇలా ఎడ్యుకేటివ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ కండక్ట్ చేద్దామని చెప్పిన తరుణంలో అదే ప్రకారంగా అన్ని ఈ రెండో సెషన్ డైరెక్ట్ ట్యాక్సెస్ మీద ఇండైరెక్ట్ ట్యాక్సెస్ మీద ఉన్న డౌట్ని క్లారిఫై చేసి నివృత్తి చేస్తూ మనందరికీ సహకరించినందుకు అందరికీ ధన్యవాదాలు. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Now is the time to invite our beloved chairman of the session, Sri PV Subba Rao garu, to express his opinion and views about this today's session. And request you, Your Highness, to give the blessings and also the suggestions to all of us for the further proceedings to continue, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Please, sir, please.
సునీల్ గారు, కుమార్ గారు, నగేష్ రంగి గారు, సిద్ధం శెట్టి గారు, రామరాజు గారు, సంజీవరావు గారు, డాక్టర్ మూర్తి గారు, మిత్రులారా అందరికీ నమస్కారం. నేను సబ్జెక్ట్ లో పోయే ముందు ఆర్గనైజర్స్ ఒక సూచన చేయదలుచుకున్నాను. సామాన్యంగా ఈ ఇండైరెక్ట్ ట్యాక్స్ ముఖ్యంగా జిఎస్టికి సంబంధించినటువంటి సెషన్స్ ఏవి కూడా 18th to 21st డేట్స్ లో కండక్ట్ చేయకూడదు. ఇవాళ మీకు 100 మంది కూడా రాకపోవడానికి కారణం ఏంటంటే అందరూ రిటర్న్స్ వేసుకుంటున్నారు. ఈ వచ్చే వాళ్ళు కూడా వీళ్ళలో ఎంతమంది ప్రాక్టీషనర్స్ ఉన్నారో 80 మందిలో కూడా తెలియదు. అందుకని హైదరాబాద్ లో తెలంగాణ వాళ్ళు ఎప్పుడు కండక్ట్ చేసినా 16th to 21st ఆ డేట్స్ లో ఎలాంటి సెమినార్ వాళ్ళు పెట్టారు. దయచేసి నెక్స్ట్ మంత్ నుంచి ఏమన్నా మీకు అవకాశం ఉంటే ఈ ముఖ్యంగా 19-20 అనేటువంటిది అసలు చాలా స్ట్రెస్ లో ఉంటారు ప్రాక్టీషనర్స్ రిటర్న్స్ వేసేదానికి.
హలో
హలో
sir, please speak in English.
I am advising the association.
RR Baldwa Chartered Accountants.
Baldwa ji, namaskar.
Namaskar ji, namaskar.
Subba Rao speaking. Okay, I am advising the organizers to kindly conduct the seminars on GST, particularly after 21st or before 16th of any month. Then, though there are about 1,000 members in the 3 associations, hardly 86 participants are there in today's seminar. Very recently, one of the Honorable Judge of the High Court has said that it is easier to go to moon, Chandrayaan, than to understand the GST, in spite of an honorable judge telling that it is difficult to understand GST. Hardly less than 100 participants are there. In this regard also, I advise the organizers to kindly look into this issue as to why the people are not unable to participate. What are the particular reasons? Is it a date issue or is it a time issue? Kindly inquire, and so that at least I shall be happy if there are 200 participants in any webinar, because it is all free. Nobody need pay anything. So kindly keep in mind these 2 sessions. Sunil garu, I will take just 10 minutes. Okay?
Sir, please, sir, please, sir, please.
Just explain. Other things Mr. Kumar will speak. Today we have 2 subjects, that is Rule 21A of the CGST Rules 2017. This Rule 21A has been added to the rules by notification number 3/2019 Central Tax, dated 29th January 2019. It deals with the suspension of registration. The question of suspending a registration, the GST law, it is having 2 aspects. One is the registered taxable person may himself ask for cancellation. The another is the officer suo moto may take a decision if he has reason to believe to cancel the registration. So there can be two types of cancellations. One requested by the registered taxable person and the other initiated by the proper officer. So if the rule 21A specifically states that if a registered person wants his registration to be cancelled under section 29(1), he has to submit an application electronically in form GST REG 16. On submission of such application, I am talking about the cancellation of registration when requested by the registered taxable person. So as per rule 21A, the registration shall be deemed to have been suspended. Please make a note that the moment the registered taxable person submits the application for cancellation, his registration shall be deemed to be suspended from the date of submission of the application or the date from which the cancellation is sought, whichever is the latter. Because the cancellation proceedings may take some time, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or depending on the facts and circumstances. So the moment an application is submitted to the proper officer by the registerable taxable person, it shall be deemed that the registration is suspended. Second is, under sub-rule 2 of rule 21A, where the proper officer has reasons to believe that the registration of a person is liable to be cancelled. So please make a note that rule 21 has 7 reasons. Please make a note that rule 21 has 7 reasons for the proper officer to propose cancellation. I will mention 2 important reasons. Where there is excess outward supplies shown in Gstr 1 than in Gstr 3B. The registered taxable person has shown more outward supplies in Gstr 1 than in Gstr 3B, then it would be a reason to cancel the registration. The second one is incorrect availment of ITC. ITC may not be admissible, there may be several reasons. These 2 are mainly concerned with the tax practitioner or tax consultant. All other things we are not concerned with the headache of the registered taxable person. Because you are all filing the returns, you are all preparing the returns, you must be very cautious always in comparing GSTR 1 and 3B. Whether the dealer is entitled for ITC, whether the dealer can avail the ITC, whether the ITC is admissible or not. All these are things to be looked into by the tax consultant or practitioner, because of such reasons, particularly these 2 reasons. If the registration is proposed to be cancelled, then the client will come to you and he will inquire with you why my registration is being suspended or cancelled. So there are 2 more aspects during the suspension period which everybody must know. So cancellation is one thing. Before cancellation, the registration is suspended. During the period of registration, during the period of suspension, the registered taxable person cannot make any taxable supply. Please make a note. If the order is issued suspending the registration, then the registered taxable person cannot make any taxable supply. More so, this is particularly in relation to a case where the proper officer has proposed cancellation. If the registered taxable person has on his own applied for suspension or cancellation, then he will not is not bothered whether he is making taxable supply or not, because anyhow he wants to cancel the registration. But where the proper officer has issued a notice proposing cancellation, first he will suspend the registration. In such case, during the period of suspension, the registered taxable person cannot make any taxable supply during the period of suspension. It means he cannot issue tax invoice, he cannot charge any tax from his recipient. The second is, during the period of suspension, more important, the registered taxable person will not be granted any refund during the period of suspension. So during the period of suspension, he cannot issue tax invoice, he cannot tax charge, he cannot collect a tax, and he will not be granted any refund during the period of suspension. This is in brief about Rule 21A. Other things, other aspects, Mr. Kumar will explain. Now I will deal with the second most important subject in today's seminar, 2A versus 3B. Everywhere, every state, every city, every town, the talk of the country is 2A versus 3B. This has been causing a lot of stress. So, for the purpose of understanding the subject of 2A versus 3B, what we have to see is we should segregate this topic into 3 periods. This 2A versus 3B business, we have to segregate into 3 periods. The first period is pre-31st December 2021. So, what is the status of 2A versus 3B up to 31st December 2021. Then from 1/1/2002, from 1st January 2022, from 1st January 2022 with the date of implementation or coming into effect of the Finance Act 2022. First period is up to December 2021. Second period is 1st January 2022 with the date of coming into effect of Finance Act 2022. Only bill is presented in the Parliament. So let us consider the first period. Before going into the first period, generally this 2A versus 3B is more concerned with ITC issues. So there are two main conditions for claiming ITC: receipt of goods or services. Recipient must be in physical receipt of goods or services or both. Then he must be in receipt of tax invoice. We are not discussing with the cases where only invoices are traded. Bill trading is a different issue. We are now discussing only with a case where the recipient has received both goods or services or both, as well tax invoice. So in such case, there are some problems with the 2A versus 3B. What is this Gstr 2A? Though they are all elementary things, because before going into a very serious discussion by Mr. Kumar, let us also recapitulate some of the basic issues. Gstr 2A is an auto-drafted ITC statement. It is a written containing details of all the inward supplies, TDS and TCS. Gstr 2A is auto-populated. It shows outward invoices entered by the suppliers. On the other hand, Gstr 3B is a self-assessment return. You are yourself assessing. You are computing your ITC, eligible ITC or admissible ITC. You are computing your OTL, output tax liability. So Gstr 2A is an auto-populated outward invoices statement, and Gstr 3B is a self-assessment return. ITC reconciliation between forms Gstr 3B and 2A, it is very, very important for taxpayers. ITC shown in table, kindly make a note. ITC shown in table 4 capital A of 3B return would be eligible after reconciling and matching with the details in 2A. I am discussing the first period, hence I am using the word matching. Now there will be no matches. So ITC shown in table 4A of 3B would be eligible after reconciling and matching with the details in 2A. Section 37(1) of the Act and Rule 59 of the CGST rules mandate furnishing of outward supplies electronically. Rule 59(3) says that they should be made available to the concerned recipients in Gstr 2A. So now, since past at least 1 year, proper officers have been issuing thousands of notices. In Telangana, the department claimed that it has issued 28,000 notices. They are issuing notices in Form GST Assessment Return and DRC 011A to reconcile the ITC claimed in Gstr 3B with the details in Gstr 2A. So in this regard, I may advise all the consultants and practitioners that before feeding the data into 3B. First reconcile the ITC. Whether all conditions mentioned in section 16 of the GSTR are fully complied with or not. And if it is not complied with, you have to tell your client you are not eligible, or there is a difference between or variation difference between outward supplies in GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. It is our duty to guide the client properly. Also, annual return in GSTR 9, it also requires ITC reconciliation according to GSTR 3B versus GSTR 2A in tables 6 and 8 of GSTR 9. So, this GSTR 2A is closely connected with GSTR 9 as well GSTR 3B. There may be several reasons for non-reconciliation. There are bound to be variation or differences. It is because of several reasons, and I may mention some of the reasons. In some of the cases, supplier doesn't at all file GSTR 1. It doesn't at all file GSTR 1. Then what should we do? What is the ITC to be taken in 3B? Mr. Kumar will answer. Then another reason is the supplier may be showing lesser number of transactions in GSTR 1 to delay payment of tax through 3B. For example, in a given month, supplier has done say 100 transactions, but he will show only 60 transactions in GSTR 1 and he will report only 60 transactions in 3B. It is easy headache. He has committed a mistake, proper officer is there to tackle the supplier. But there is a problem to the recipient. If all the transactions are not correctly and completely reported by the supplier, then there is a problem. So then maybe recording B2B transactions as B2C transactions. Then his recipient will verify his transactions are not found. He has to talk to the supplier and get it corrected. Then another reason may be furnishing incorrect figures due to negligence or oversight. The invoice may show, say, 1 lakh. By mistake, it is fed as 10,000 rupees. Like that, maybe there may be many mistakes. Then some cases, the filing of GSTR 1 itself is blocked if previous 2 months 3B returns were not filed. So these are all the problems faced by the recipient, though all the mistakes have been committed by the supplier. So ultimately, QA is the basis for everything. So another last reason will be there may be some missing invoices and debit notes. So by negligence, some invoices may not appear in GSTR 1 and consequently they are not auto-populated or auto-drafted into 2B. Then section 16(2)(c) says that ITC cannot be availed unless the supplier actually, kindly underline the word actually, pays the tax charged to the government either in cash or through utilization of ITC admissible in respect of such supply. Kindly underline the word admissible. There are 2 words to be underlined in 16(2)(c). One is actually, another is admissible. So he has to utilize, he avails the ITC and he has to utilize only the admissible ITC. If he has utilized the inadmissible ITC, to that extent it can't be said that there is proper credit that has been utilized. Kindly take your notebook and make a note of 2 important documents which I am mentioning. Very important documents which are highly useful in drafting your objections. Kindly make a note, take your pen and notebook. The CBIC, wide its circular number 123/42/2019, 123/42/2019, dated 11th November 2019, categorically clarified that the matching under Rule 36(4) is required only for the ITC availed after 9th October 2019 and not prior to that. Hence, the denial of the ITC for non-reflection in GSTR 2A is incorrect during the said period. Kindly make a note. Please get a copy of the circular dated 11/11/2019, and you can use it while drafting your objections, which can be used up to 9th October 2019 transactions. The second important document is press release by the GST Council dated 4th May 2018. Press release by GST Council dated 4th May 2018. I will read para 4 in this press release. There is no automatic reversal of credit. There shall not be any automatic reversal of input tax credit from buyer on non-payment of tax by the seller. Kindly hear once again. There shall not be any automatic reversal of input tax credit from buyer on non-payment of tax by the seller. In case of default in payment of tax by the seller, recovery shall be made from the seller. Recovery shall be made from the seller. However, reversal of credit from the buyer shall also be an option available with the revenue authorities to address exceptional situations like missing dealer, closure of business by supplier, or supplier not having adequate assets, etc. You can use this press release also. And Mr. Kumar also, I think he will speak on Doctrine of Impossibility. The law cannot compel the recipient to do the impossible. That is, we ensure that the supplier has paid the tax to the government, or the supplier correctly files his returns, or the supplier correctly pays the tax. It is unjust to deny credit to the recipient for the negligence or failure on the part of supplier to furnish details in Gstr 1. And I may bring to your kind notice of all the participants that way back in 40 years back, the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Madras Radio and Electricals held that is under CSTR. The seller has no control over the affairs of the purchase. The seller has no control over the affairs of the purchaser. Similarly, in GSTR 2, the recipient has no control over the affairs of the supplier. The recipient cannot force the supplier to file the return. Recipient cannot force the supplier to file correct return. Recipient cannot force the supplier to pay the tax. So Mr. Kumar also will speak, I think, about DY Bethel Enterprises case of Madras High Court, where it has been held that when it has come out that the seller has collected tax from the purchasing dealers, the omission on the part of the seller to remit the tax in question must have been viewed very seriously, and strict action ought to have been taken against the seller only, supplier only. Only another 1 minute I will take. Then second part. Till now I have spoken about the first period. Sunil garu oka 2 నిమిషాలు.
Sir, it's very interesting topic. You can continue, sir. There is no issue at all, sir. Please.
Thank you. Because I am feeling stressed, I am eating away the time of Kumar. So we have completed the first period indeed. Now let us come to the second period. What is the commencing date of second period? From 1/1/2022 to the date of coming into effect of the provisions relating to this issue in the Finance Act 2022. Kindly make a note of notification number 40 of 2021 Central Tax dated 29th December 2021. So I think all must have noted by this time that this sub-rule 4 of Rule 36 has been fully substituted. Sub-rule 4 of Rule 36 has been fully substituted with effect from 1/1/2022. According to me, when this substitution has coming to force from 1/1/2022, it would be applicable from December, because December return you will be filing in January. Whatever I am saying now, you must have already filed December return. Today or tomorrow you will be filing January return. So you can take your own decision whether to rectify December return or not. So what happened? This Rule 36(4) you must be knowing. It started with 20%, then came down to 10%, came down to 5%. Now it is made 0%. 20, 15, 5, 0. The new sub rule 4 of Rule 36 reads as follows. Please hear carefully. No input tax credit shall be availed by a registered person in respect of invoices or debit notes, the details of which are required to be furnished under subsection 1 of section 37, unless the details of such invoices or debit notes have been furnished by the supplier in the statement of outward supplies in Form Gstr 1 or using the invoice furnishing facility, and the details of such invoices or debit notes have been communicated to the registered person in Form GSTRB under sub rule 17 of Rule 60. అంటే దీని అర్థం ఏమంటే ఎవరు ఐటీసీ ఎప్పుడు ఐటీసీ ఓన్లీ సప్లయర్ తాలూకు జిఎస్టిఆర్ మీద ఆధారపడి మీ కమ్యూనికేట్ అయినటువంటి టీవీలో ఉన్నటువంటి 2Bలో ఉన్న అమౌంట్ మాత్రమే తీసుకోవాలి, వేరేది తీసుకుంటానికి వీల్లేదు అనేటువంటి క్లియర్ కట్ గా ఇది ఈ రూల్ చెల్లుతుందా లేదా అవన్నీ వేరే విషయం. యూఆర్ ఆల్ ఒరిజినల్ సైడ్ tax practitioners. If your clients wants to go to, if he wants to go up to Supreme Court, let him go. That is a different issue. But you are all original practitioners. The rule says like this. It is up to you to follow rule or not. Sub rule 4 of rule now effective from 1/1/2022 says no input tax credit shall be availed. So supplier a GSTR 1 లో అంతా అప్లోడ్ చేయాలి. అప్లోడ్ చేసినంత నీకు 2Bలో కనబడాలి. ఆ 2Bలో కనబడినటువంటి ఐటీసీ మాత్రమే నువ్వు తీసుకోవాలి. ది recipient is eligible to avail the ITC only when it appears in the 2B auto populated to him. Otherwise, he is not entitled. He cannot avail. If he is availing ITC which is not appearing in 2B, it is easy headache. He has to face the music. That is the second period. Now the last period, third period. Whatever I am now speaking will be applicable from the date of coming into force of the provisions contained in the Finance Act 2022. The bill has to become Act, Finance Act, then a notification has to be issued coming into force of the provisions. The following amendments have been proposed relating to the today's subject in the Finance Act 2022. It has been proposed to amend, kindly make a note, it has been proposed to amend section 38 subsection 1 to do away with two-way communication. You must have heard two-way communication. So the supplier uploads his outward supplies in GSTR 1. It comes to the recipient. Recipient has to verify and validate and transmit in the supplier. He has to correct and all that. All this procedure has been there. Two-way communication. ఇద్దరు మధ్య లవ్ లెటర్స్ లాగా సప్లయర్ రెసిపియంట్ మధ్య రాసుకునేట్టుగా పెట్టారు మొదట్లో. అవన్నీ తీసేశారు. కైండ్లీ మేక్ ఏ నోట్ దట్ ది two-way communication between the supplier and the recipient has been done away with by proposing to amend section 38(1). Instead, it has been proposed to provide details of inward supplies and input tax credit to the recipient by means of an auto-generated statement with 6 clauses under which no credit would be available. So, ఈ ఫినాన్స్ యాక్ట్ లో ఉన్నటువంటి ప్రపోజల్స్ వల్ల ది రెసిపియంట్ హ్యాస్ టు టేక్ ఓన్లీ ద క్రెడిట్ దట్ ఈస్ ఫైండింగ్ ప్లేస్ ఇన్ ది auto generated statement communicated to him. But in that statement also, the proper officer has to power to restrict the ITC. What are the conditions in respect of which such ITC has to be restricted? For want of time, not dealing. There are 6 clauses in the proposed amendment in section 38(1). So in respect, by applying any of the clauses or all the clauses, the proper officer will restrict the ITC. This is all about 2B only. I am not dealing with any other subject. So then it has been proposed to amend section 41 in the CGST Act to do away with the concept of provisional credit. Earlier we have a concept of provisional credit. But now there is no provisional credit. What are you are taking is the final credit. If that credit is wrong, inadmissible or ineligible, you are answerable. అంటే మీ అందరు ప్రాక్టీషనర్స్ మీద ఎంత భయంకరమైనటువంటి బాధ్యత పెరిగింది, స్ట్రెస్ పెరిగింది ఆలోచించుకోండి. Now the proposed amendment also, act also, it proposes to remove GSTR 2. మార్నింగ్ సునీల్ గారు అడుగుతున్నారు GSTR 2 ఏమైతుంది? GSTR 2కి ఒక సమాధి కడతం జరుగుతుంది ఈ యాక్ట్ వచ్చిన తర్వాత. సో ఇట్ ప్రపోజెస్ టు రిమూవ్ GSTR 2 అండ్ మ్యాచింగ్ కాన్సెప్ట్ పోయింది. టూ వే కమ్యూనికేషన్ పోయింది. GSTR 2 పోయింది. అంటే మొదట్లో అవన్నీ ఏవైతే వాళ్ళు పెడదామని అనుకున్నారో రకరకాల కారణాల వల్ల అవన్నీ వాళ్ళు తీసేసుకుంటూ పోతున్నారు. ఇలా ప్రపోజల్ టు రిమూవ్ GSTR 2 అండ్ మ్యాచింగ్ కాన్సెప్ట్ బై omitting sections 42, 43 and 43A. 42, 43, 43A సెక్షన్స్ ని పూర్తిగా ఒమిట్ చేసేస్తున్నారు. దెన్ ప్రపోజల్ టు అమెండ్ సెక్షన్ 41 ప్రొవైడింగ్ ఫర్ నో క్లెయిమ్ ఆఫ్ ITC by the recipient if the supplier doesn't pay tax. So 41 సెక్షన్ కూడా అమెండ్ చేసి supplier tax కడితేనే only when the supplier pays tax, then only the recipient would be eligible. These are the 3 periods relating to QB. I am thankful to Mr. Sunil and all other organizers for giving me this opportunity to react and respond with all of you. ఇవి అధ్యక్షుడు తొలి పలుకులు మాత్రమే కనుక 15 నిమిషాల్లో ముగించాను. I have not taken up a full-fledged class. My brother Mr. Kumar will take up and he will go into more details. Thank you all. ఇవన్నీ కూడా మరొకసారి చిన్న సూచనతోటి దయచేసి మీరందరూ కూడా ITC ఎప్పుడు వస్తుంది ఎప్పుడు రాదు అనేది 1కి 100 సార్లు తెలుసుకోండి. నలుగురు దగ్గర కూర్చొని మాట్లాడుకోండి. తప్పుడు ITC కనుక తీసుకుంటే మీరే బాధ్యులు, మీ క్లయింట్ బాధ్యులు కాదు. ఆయన చెడుతాడు, మిమ్మల్ని ఎందుకు పెట్టుకున్నాను సార్, మీకు ఎందుకు ఇలాగే 1000 రూపాయలు ఎందుకు ఇస్తున్నాను సార్, తప్పుడు ITC ఎందుకు తీసుకున్నారు సార్, మీ వల్ల పెనాల్టీ వచ్చింది, ఇంట్రెస్ట్ వచ్చింది, నేను ఎందుకు కట్టాలి అంటే మీకు ఆన్సర్ లేదు. కనుక వాడు ఏవో పంపిస్తాడు, ఆ డేటా కరెక్టా కాదా చూసుకోవాల్సిన బాధ్యత ఉంది. ఇంతకుముందు ఒక మీటింగ్లో తెలంగాణ మీటింగ్లో చెప్పాను, మీ క్లయింట్స్ ఎవరైతే ఉన్నారో కనీసం 3 నెలలకు ఒకసారి వాళ్ళ ప్రిమిసెస్కి మీరు వెళ్ళి ప్రాపర్ ఆఫీసర్ ఇన్స్పెక్షన్ చేసినట్టు ఒక 2 hours మీరు అక్కడికి పోయి ఇన్స్పెక్షన్ చేయండి. ఏదో మెయిల్లో వచ్చిన డేటాని ఫీడ్ చేయడం కాదు. అట్లీస్ట్ వన్స్ ఇన్ ఏ క్వార్టర్ physically visit the premises of your client and verify all his invoices. Spend 2 hours once in a quarter at the premises of your client. All the best. God bless you. Once again, I salute to Dr. Murthy garu, my learned brother, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you all. Thank you, Sunil, Nagesh, Srinivas Rao, Kumar, and all that. Namaskar.
సార్ థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ సార్. సార్ ఇవాళ కుమార్ సార్ గారు నిజంగా ఒక బిగ్ ఛాలెంజ్ ఏంటంటే ట్యాక్స్ ఫర్టర్నిటీకి 2 కళ్ళు లాగా ఉన్నటువంటి మీరు, మూర్తి సార్ గారు ఆధ్వర్యంలో తొలి పలుకులుగా మీరు, మలి పలుకులుగా మూర్తి సార్ గారి మధ్యలో ఒక ఛాలెంజ్ లాగా ఇవాళ మీ సబ్జెక్ట్ చెప్పడంలోనే ఇంట్రడక్షన్లోనే ఇంత సబ్జెక్ట్ ఉంది అంటే ఇక దాని మీద ఎలాబొరేట్ గా వెళ్లాల్సినటువంటి పరిస్థితి ఎంత అవసరం అనేది ఇంకా కుమార్ అన్న కంటిన్యూ చేస్తారు. కానీ ఇది చూస్తూ అంటేనే ఒక పక్క భయము, ఒక పక్క చూస్తే రకరకాలైనటువంటి ఆలోచనల మధ్యలో ఈ పరిస్థితిని గమనించిన తర్వాత వాట్ ఈస్ ద ఫ్యూచర్ ఆఫ్ ద డీలర్ ఆర్ ది కన్సల్టెంట్ ఎట్లా ఉండబోతుంది అనేది మాత్రం ఒక టెన్షన్ అయ్యేటట్టుగా కనిపిస్తుంది. ఇది రియలీ ఇట్ ఈస్ ఎ బిగ్ ఛాలెంజ్ సార్. సార్ ఇట్స్ మై ఇమ్మెన్స్ ప్లెజర్ టు ఇన్వైట్ అవర్ MVK మూర్తి సార్. సార్ హార్టీ వెల్కమ్ సార్, హార్టీ వెల్కమ్ సార్. Sir. Very good afternoon, sir. Hearty welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Namaskaram, Murthy garu.
Namaskaram.
Now it's a time to our beloved speaker, Sri MVJK Kumar sir, to continue his session to be the speaker of today's 2 important subjects, which it is already informed by our chairman, sir. Please, sir. Please.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you, Subba Rao garu.
for giving a wonderful session as a chairman. As said by Sunil, of course, I'm very new to this concept of giving speeches or being a speaker in a session. And of course, between two giants, I'm a very tiny man. Now, facing the two giants is a big, Herculean task on me. But still, I will do my best. Now, the pros and cons. The subject that is today's session is pros and cons. After insertion of Rule 221A, suspension of registration and issues on Gstr versus 3B. Actually, initially we thought that let the topic be on this only. But to that, as the chairman has already spoken, one more thing I have added, that is, and also section 16(2)(c) of the CGST Act. He has already spoken, the chairman sir has already spoken about 16(2)(c). That is part and parcel of the Gstr 2A versus 3B, in fact. But it has got its own repercussions when compared to section 16(2)(c) of the CGST Act. Now, as you all know, by the 14th, now is it visible to all? Is it visible?
Yes, Anna. Yes.
By the 14th amendment to the Central Goods and Service Tax Rules 2020, read with Rule 164, which deals with the council, has got the powers to amend the rules and all, which refers the central government on the recommendations of the council may amend the central government rules. Rule 21A has been inserted or amended. Now, what is this Rule 21A and what does the Rule 21A says? By virtue of the newly amended rules, Rule 21A has been amended, and in Sub-Rule 2A, and in Sub-Rule 2A, the words, after affording the said person a reasonable opportunity of being heard, shall be omitted. And now you will not be given any opportunity of being heard, but you will be your registration will be automatically suspended. Now, why I am saying this is, it has been said in Sub-Rule B, after Sub-Rule 2, the following sub-rule shall be inserted, namely, where a comparison of the returns furnished by a registered person under section 39 with the details of output supplies furnished in form Gstr 1, that is by the supplier, the return will be filed in form Gstr 1 under section 39, and he will be saying that according to his invoices, this is the tax that has to be paid by the supplier. Now, an auto-populated return will come to you, that is the purchaser, and it says that the details of inward supplies derived based on the details of output supplies furnished by the suppliers in form Gstr 1 or such other analysis as may be carried out on the recommendations of the council show that there are significant differences. Kindly please make a note. Kindly make a note. Well, as said by the chairman, if you have the notebook and pens or pencils, kindly make a note. Significant differences or anomalies indicating contravention of the provisions of the Act or the rules made thereunder leading to cancellation of registration of the said person, his registration shall be suspended and the said person shall be intimated in Form Gstr Reg 31 electronically on the common portal or by sending a communication to his email address provided at the time of registration or as amended from time to time, highlighting the said differences and anomalies and asking him to explain within a period of 30 days as to why his registration shall not be cancelled. If I can send this particular thing to you in the WhatsApp also. So friends, if it is difficult for you to note down these particular things, I can send the recording of this in the recording that is available. I can send this particular thing also PDF to you. Now, what does this particular 21A says is, there are some anomalies I will point out. Such other analysis, first of all, an analysis has to be done or as may be carried out on the recommendations of the council that we don't know, show that there are significant differences or anomalies indicating contravention of the provisions of the Act. Now, what are the provisions of the Act? Either Form 1 Gstr 1 and Form Gstr 2A are the anomalies or any differences in between Form 1 and Form 2A, or are these, because they are saying that provisions of the Act, are these the provisions of the Act or they are interconnected with the provisions of the Act, and if at all there is a difference in Form Gstr 1 filed by the supplier and Form Gstr 2A that is auto-populated in the and if any ITC is being claimed irrespective of the invoices that are supplied by the supplier, irrespective of the mistake that is done by the supplier, then as said by the supplier, you have to claim the ITC, else your registration would be put under suspension without giving a notice, and later the authorities will conduct an inquiry and will ask you to give explanation, and then they may cancel or they may withdraw the cancellation as per the procedure. Now, whether the suspension of registration would tantamount to standstill of business. Hello? Yes? Sir, I think somebody is talking in between. Sunil?
Sir, please, sir.
Sir, just Anna, 1 second, Anna. Chustunanu.
Please unmute everyone.
Yeah.
Sir,
Venkatesh.
please carry on, sir.
Unmuted?
Okay, sir. Done, sir. Please carry on.
Venkatesh, కొంచెం గమనిస్తా ఉండు వెంకటేష్.
Okay.
Now, because of this, the businessman or the dealer would come to a standstill. Now, everyone will say that, you have to verify Gstr 1 with Gstr 2A, and then in Gstr 3B, you have to say that this is the ITC. Now, the particular thing here is I am in possession of the invoices that are issued by my supplier. If my supplier has by mistakenly has not shown certain sales by him, then how can I be denied? That is, how can the dealer be denied the ITC? Then if there is any differences between the Gstr 1 and 2A and 3B, then placing me under suspension by the authorities is nothing but an arbitrary and atrocious provision. Because I will tell you one thing, the businessman, the dealer is doing a business. First of all, this ITC business is, I don't like this ITC business. In fact, I have said this when the VAT Act was introduced. At the time, and heckling has been done by the commissioners and all. So I said that, sir, no, this ITC would tantamount to unnecessary litigation. And they did not believe that. But in 2003, when 13.3AA was introduced in the VAT Act, then they have realized. They have realized and they have inserted 13.3AA, which says that the tax has to be paid by the supplier, then only you will be given, that is the purchaser would be given the ITC. Is it not an arbitrary provision? Is it not an atrocious provision? Suppose the tax that I have paid, because this is an indirect tax, right? And I am acting as all the, either the supplier or me, the dealer, or so-called the other dealer, till the end, the goods are purchased by the end user. Everyone is to be treated as an agent of the government only. So here what is happening is, the agent is deprived of that scheme of the act. The scheme of the act says ITC would be given to the purchaser or the second purchaser, third purchaser, every purchaser, till it reaches the end user. Now, what is happening is, by virtue of these provisions, you are creating a hurdle in the way of the purchasers. Maybe the GST council may, or the GST authorities may come with a proposal saying that, no, sir, what will happen is, that person who is selling the goods to you, and you may be a rightful person, but without receiving the goods, without receiving the supplies, you may produce an invoice. So how do we know? Then you tax the invoice also. Because there is one case under the VAT Act, the same problem had arisen, and the High Court of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana has said that invoices can be taxed. Then what is the wrong in claiming the ITC on the invoices, on the purchase that is made by me? Because you are treating as invoices, because there are no movement of goods, you are treating invoices as goods. Now, when the invoices are treated as goods, why can't you give the ITC on the invoices itself? That is the precise question. But as far as these are the some lame excuses that would be claimed, that would be even reached by the department authorities or the trade. But let us go by the provisions of the Act. They say that if the supplier by mistakenly has omitted certain invoices in the Gstr 1, when Gstr 2A is automatically populated, Gstr 2A will carry the same invoices, and you have to file the Gstr 3B by disclosing the same as shown by your supplier, but you cannot disclose anything more than the supplier has shown. Right. Coming to that, when I show certain invoices which are not disclosed by the supplier in the 3B return, then the department authorities will place me under suspension. Now, what is the necessity for the department people to place me under suspension? Probably the department people wants to stop the business of this person and curtail all his business activities and is involvement in the some other activities of the business by which he is hoodwinking the revenue. Now, let us understand one thing clearly. If the department is able to catch hold of and is able to keep me under suspension, the department can catch hold of the same at a later stage also and can recover the taxes, penalty, interest, all the things from the persons. Because instead of that, what they are doing is they are keeping me under suspension, and after suspension, they will conduct an inquiry, and necessarily that inquiry has to prove the allegations against me, and if it is not proved, then I will be given a clean sheet. Now, it's approval 3, after the words bracketed and figures, or approval 2, the words brackets, figure, and letters. Yeah. I'm sorry, gentlemen, this particular thing is obstructing. And the words brackets, figures, and letter or approval 2A shall be inserted. Okay.
Kumar sir, ఒక చిన్న మాట సార్, దీన్ని డౌన్లోడ్ చేద్దాం సార్, దాన్ని డౌన్లోడ్ చేసి డిస్ప్లే చేద్దాం.
డౌన్లోడ్ చేయడానికి ట్రై చేసాము
సార్. మనకి ఇదిగోండి రైట్ సైడ్ లో టాప్ లో ఉంది సార్ డౌన్లోడ్ ఆప్షన్, రైట్ సైడ్ టాప్ లో ఉంది సార్. మీకు సార్ రైట్ సైడ్ టాప్ లో సార్, మీకు కర్సర్ రైట్ సైడ్ తీసుకెళ్ళండి సార్, కొంచెం కింద సార్, కొంచెం కింద సార్. సార్ ప్రింట్ ఆప్షన్ ఉంది కదా సార్, ప్రింట్ ఆప్షన్ పక్కన సార్. ఓకే సార్, ప్లీజ్ క్యారీ.
ఓకే
ఓకే సార్, ఓకే సార్, డన్ సార్.
రైట్
సార్ స్లైడ్ కూడా మీరు దాన్ని జూమ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు సార్. కింద మనకి ప్రివ్యూ ఉంటుంది. కింద మన స్లైడ్ ఆప్షన్ ఉంటుంది సార్, స్లైడ్ ఆప్షన్ ఉంటుంది కింద. కొంచెం లెఫ్ట్ సైడ్ సార్, కొంచెం లెఫ్ట్ సైడ్ సార్, ఆ జూమ్ కాదు సార్, లెఫ్ట్ సైడ్. సార్ అక్కడి నుంచి మూడోది, అక్కడి నుంచి మూడోది. ఎస్ సార్, ఎస్ సార్. నెక్స్ట్ వన్ సార్, డన్ సార్, కరెక్ట్.
ఓకే, రైట్,
డన్ సార్,
రైట్.
క్యారీ ఆన్.
Now, this is the newly inserted subrule 2A, and as I said earlier, it gives the GST authorities to suspend the registration if there are significant differences or anomalies indicating the contravention of the provisions of the Act and rules therein. What is the significant differences? What is the anomalies? That, as far as I know, I have explained to you. They may be anomalies to the department and they may be not anomalies to you. Now, the rule newly inserted or amended says that without issuing any show cause notice, a person's registration can be kept under suspension, and after the reply filed by the dealer, if the authorities are specified, then the authorities can withdraw the suspension or can cancel the registration and take the necessary action against the dealers. The newly inserted subrule gives unbridled power to the tax authorities to issue Form Gstr 31 electronically on the common portal or by sending a communication to the email address of the dealer for the reasons best known, and even if the authorities comes to know that there are any significant difference or reason, but the council shall not forget. Here is my opinion, but the council shall not forget that there can be differences or anomalies when the supplier does not file Form Gstr 1 or does not disclose the transactions which will reflect the transactions such as ITC in the auto-populated Form Gstr 2A and Form Gstr 2B, and which was also reflected in Form Gstr 3B, and if the mistake is not reconciled, then the dealer cannot be made responsible for the mistake of the suppliers. This is purely a, I don't call it as a difference of opinion, but I call it as a purely communication between the supplier and the receiver, saying that I have supplied to you, and you can show the invoices and input tax on this. But why this electronically? Why electronically the Gstr 1, Gstr 2A, Gstr 2B, and Gstr 3B has been introduced by the department? This is for the purpose of knowing or evading the cascading effects or the hoodwinking of the revenue. Now, because of this, one more problem that is shoot up is, if the supplier does not disclose in the Gstr 1 that he is filing, then the receiver cannot claim the same in Gstr 3B, because automatically it will be whatever the supplier has recorded in Gstr 1 will be shown in Gstr 2A. Now, the communication or reconciliation of statement will be done even if I communicate to the supplier that you have not disclosed these particular invoices, kindly disclose these invoices in your Gstr 1. If the supplier does not believe, then will my registration be automatically put under suspension? Yes, your registration will be put automatically under suspension, and you will be asked, you will be given, sir, all the questions will be answered after the session is over, sir. I will answer all the sessions, all the questions. Sorry. Sometimes the dealer, that is the purchaser, can also make mistakes due to which ITC or output tax would not be matching with each other. And for these reasons, the registration certificate cannot be suspended without issuing show cause notice, as the business of the dealer comes to a standstill, and because of the suspension of registration, the dealer cannot function or do business till a notice after suspension is issued, to which he will file reply contending that ifs and buts are the facts of the case as the case may be. So it is very crystal clear that placing a dealer under suspension the business of the dealer would come to a standstill, and after giving a notice, after conducting the inquiry, after giving a notice to the dealer, we don't know whether whatever we say to the department would be accepted or not. That is of course, that is the discretion of the department authorities. Now, suspension provision. Suspension provision under the GST Act, Rule 21A, is on par with the service law provision, because this suspension provision is not there under the GST Act or under any indirect tax law. Suspension of registration, as far as my knowledge is concerned. So suspension of GST Act, suspension of registration under the GST Act is on par, because this is the suspension is only under the service tax, under the service law, not under indirect taxes law, as I know. Now, when I heard about the suspension provision under the GST Act, it remembered me the suspension provisions of the service law. Means I used to do, even now also I am doing this service law. Then I have seen a lot of provisions in the service law, and even under the service law also, before keeping a person under suspension, charge sheet used to be given to the person, and then a show cause notice is to be given to the person, to which a reply has to be filed. Then the person will be suspended, but he will be paid some subsistence allowance, and all these things are there under the service law. Now, whether under the GST Act these provisions are there or not, this is only comparison that I am trying to do. Let me read this particular thing to you. Under any service law, be that the central or the state or any other cooperative or any other law, the suspension of an employee will be done after issuing a charge sheet or a show cause notice or an explanation letter intimating the delinquent employee concerned about the allegations or charges of misconduct alleged against the employee, to which the employee may submit necessary explanation. I think I'm clear in that, sir. Then only the suspension, if necessary, will take place, and during the suspended period, the employee may submit the necessary explanation. Then only suspension, if necessary, will take place, and during the suspended period, the employee will be allowed subsistence allowance. There are a number of judgments on this, according to Honorable High Courts and Supreme Court, which have dealt with this suspension period. And also the show cause notice that has to be issued before the suspending any employee. Now, can subsistence allowance be treated as business under the GST Act? This is the comparison of mine with the service law to that of the provisions under the GST Act, and whether there is any subsistence allowance under the GST Act. Because employer and employee relationship is somewhat different under the service tax law. But here, when it comes to the GST Act, the principal and the agency relationship is there. Now, in the GST Act, though there is no subsistence allowance, the business of the dealer in some way can be treated with that of subsistence allowance. And if the livelihood of the dealer, kindly make note, kindly please note this, and you may canvass the same thing to the authorities who will keep the registered dealer under suspension. And if we can challenge Rule 21A also, if the dealers come forward. Because I have discussed with this issue with the AP tax bar and the AP tax practitioners and Telangana tax practitioners also. But when no dealer is coming forward to challenge the rules, see, we can't go and tie the bell in the neck of the cat and expect a judgment from the Honorable High Court. So let the dealers come, let the trade come, let the trade union come, then we can challenge this particular rule. Now, and if the livelihood of the dealer is kept in a standstill position, then it not only affects Article 14, 19(1)(g) and 21, but also affects the business of the dealer. And if something alleged is not proved, then the dealer, then there will not be any use, as the total business will collapse. this point I am making very clear that if a business of a dealer, genuine dealer, is being suspended because of, I'm not talking about the all other things. I'm not talking about the invoices, or I'm not talking about this, that they should be supply of goods. I'm not talking about any of these. I'm only talking that if by mistakenly the seller has not shown the invoices and the supplier, the recipient has shown the ITC in 3B, and even after communicating the same to the supplier, if the supplier doesn't act, and what will happen to those ITCs that are shown in the 3B by the purchaser? Because some of the consultants may say that you show it in 3B because you are rightfully in possession of the invoices and you can claim the ITC. Then what happens? This is the thing. So his registration will be suspended. Then not only it violates Article 14, 19, 1G and 21 of Constitution of India, which deals with the business of a trader and also arbitrary exercise, and Article 21 deals with the life of a person. Right to live is being taken away by this act. Then let us not forget that the dealer is an agent of the government, as definitely an action will be taken against the dealer under the provisions of the GST Act. What will happen is the dealer would be not given a chance or would not be given a particular thing that his suspension would be lifted. Then what happens is, I'm sorry to say this, that this should not happen, but under the VAT Act, I have seen some dealers are not in suspension cases, but in some other cases, I have seen that some dealers has committed suicide. This will lead to committal of suicide by the dealers because of the mistakes that are done by the department, by the dealer, by the selling dealer, by the ITC provisions. I'm sorry to say this, by the ITC provisions. So I should say that I am totally against to the ITC provisions. But it is the act and we have to go through that. Now, forum Gstr 2A versus forum Gstr 3B. So more than 4 years have passed in introducing the biggest indirect tax reforms in India. As I said in the last time, it is a simple tax that at the time of introduction it has been said that it would be a simplified taxation structure. But we are seeing number of amendments, we are seeing number of insertions, we are seeing number of notification and circulars day in and day out. And be not be surprised that the notification, as far as I know, now have touched almost all to 900 roughly. So if this is the case, because I should say this, the introduction of the GST Act has been done in the midnight of July 2017. From then onwards, in a hurry-burried way. From then onwards, the council has been given the unbridled power to amend particular things. Then the council, the government is not given, upon the recommendations of the government or upon the recommendation of the council, the government can give the notification. Notification can be given by the government only. Notification cannot be given by the council. Council is the creature of a statute. The government should give the notification upon the recommendations of the council. Now, how the council will function? That, as we know, that by the ministries or the chief minister, they all sit together and they will propose something out of which they don't have any say. It is the council which will determine ultimately. So these particular notifications, these particular circulars and insertion amendments, all this is creating confusion among the dealers, because not only the dealers but the practitioners, What the practitioners are supposed to do is they have to sit before the computer and should watch which amendment, which notification, which circular has been introduced by the Act, and they should not only make note of the circulars or the amendments, but they should also implement those things, tell to the dealers, and they should, one notification may be issued that the tax leviable is 5%. Within 2 days, another notification will be issued, no, it is not 5%, it is 18%. Now, if you miss the bus of catching the 18% tax, and still, if you are showing the 5% tax only, then the department will come and catch hold of you, the dealer. And not only the dealers, recently we have also seen the various tax provisions are also taken for a tax. That is a different issue altogether. But what I am submitting is, when the Act is saying certain things, when the Act is so complicated, then what is the role of the professionals? What is the role of the dealers? Whether the professionals and dealers, so forget about the professionals, I will say the dealers, whether the dealers has to leave the business and should and shall notice all these amendments that comes under the Act. And it will be very Herculean task for the professionals also. So I am very sorry to say this, but I am left with no other choice. Now, we have witnessed numerous amendments, and the SSC and the GST are receiving notices from the department asking to explain the mismatch of input tax claim in the returns, that is Gstr 2A and 3B. The SSC are asked to give proper explanation and are asked to reverse the input tax credit and interest and penalty. Penalty is not there, but penalty also would be levied on this by saying that some other provision. Penalty are levied in the absence of no proper explanation, leading to satisfaction of authorities. What is the satisfaction of authorities? I think all the professionals knows, and there is no necessary for us to explain. Now, according to the Act, the input tax credit is taken if the recipient furnishes the necessary invoices and return in form Gstr 1 by supplier. However, in case of any difference of input tax credit claimed by the purchaser and the seller, or vice versa, the same shall be communicated by both the parties in the form of mismatch report, and the supplier and the recipients have the option to make suitable rectifications, and if it is not made, the recipient dealer is required to reverse the input tax credit. Now, the supplier is in a safe position. The recipient is only in a position, and he is the only one person who has to pay the tax and interest also for the supplier not showing the invoices properly, in spite of the communication made by the recipient saying that these are the invoices, so kindly make note of this and make a reconciliation of this particular thing. In spite of that, if the supplier doesn't make, it is the recipient who has to pay the tax and interest for the wrong claim as set by the department. It is not a wrong claim, it is the right claim, but for the fault of the supplier, the recipient would be penalized. So we have to be very careful in this, and as said by Sri Subba Rao garu, the chairman sir, now even that earlier 1 or 2021, at least we have got, we used to get 5%. of the ITC that we have to get. But now that is taken away, and you will not get any input tax. That I will deal with the later part. While the Gstr 3B is required to be filed because of the retrospectivity amendment, there is no return which legally replaces Gstr 2. There is no provision which says that input tax credit can be denied if the details furnished in Gstr 2BA and 3B are varying. The matching has to be done depending upon the information provided in Gstr 1, 2, and the result thereof. Therefore, is mismatched in Gstr 3 of the recipient. Let me be very clear that Gstr 3B has been given retrospective effect from 1/7/2017, but there is no return. We can't file any return which legally replaces, or auto-populated return which legally replaces 2A or 2B or so and so. Then there is no provision which says that input tax credit can be denied if the details furnished in Gstr 2A and Gstr 3B are varying. Now, a particular thing may come up from any of the professionals here, saying that, how can you say that when GST mismatch has been set in the rules, 21A or 21, whatever it is, rules. So how can you say, friends, let me be very clear that under the provisions of the Act, forget rules are made by the executive, Act is made by the legislative committee, legislation or the parliament. Under the Act, there is no provision which says if there is any mismatch between Gstr 2A and 3B, and if they are varying, then the ITC can be denied by the authorities. If there is any provision subject to correction, please let me know. I will also be very grateful to you. Then the department cannot throw away the claim of the input tax credit merely because of Form 3B and 2A does not match with each other, as there is no statutory provision to support this view. I have already said that one. It may be noted that since October 2019, a restriction has been placed under Rule 36(4) of the CGST rules that a taxpayer can avail input tax credit pertaining to outward supplies not declared by his suppliers in Form Gstr 1 and rectified in Form Gstr 2A only up to the extent of 5% of the eligible credit as per the invoices shown by his suppliers in Form Gstr 1. This provision has been challenged in various high courts and the judgments are still awaited. I will come to the judgments later on. However, 5% input tax credit which was allowed was deleted from 1st January 2022. So now, no tax would be given, no ITC would be given if you claim wrongfully. Whether that is right or wrong, as said by the chairman, sir, that would be discussed later on. The law cannot mend the SSC to do impossible things, like the supplier has paid the tax to the government, and after verifying the same, the purchaser has to claim the input tax credit, which according to me is nothing but a Herculean task or an impossible task, as the details of the supplier cannot be furnished or would not be furnished by him to the purchaser. Well, this is an aspect which has to be dealt in detail. Suppose no law in the country would say, that is when we approach the courts, sometimes the courts may say that this is the provision in the Act, so we have to follow the provisions of the Act. But when we challenge the provisions of the Act, then the courts are forced to say something on the Act or the provisions of the Act. Now, the dealer, the Act cannot bend or bend the SSC to do impossible things, like the supplier has paid the tax to the government and verifying the same. So what I mean to say is the purchaser, the 3B and 2A, that is the difference, because in 2A, auto-populated referring to Gstr 1. In 3B, whatever the auto-populated thing is there, that only you can claim. And 16.2C says the tax paid by the supplier, if the tax paid by the supplier to the government, then the purchaser can claim the tax. See, I cannot be forced to see that whether the supplier has paid the tax to the government. In the invoices issued to me and in the Gstr 1, the supplier will be showing that this is the cost of the goods, this is the tax that I have paid to the government. Believing the version of the supplier, I will claim in 3B. But 16.2, what does 16.2C says? If the supplier has paid the tax, then only you can get the IDC. Quite irrational. Because now, as an agent, the principle of the principal and agent is gone here. The agent is given with a Herculean task of making his supplier to pay the tax, then wait and see whether he has paid the tax, then claim in the Gstr 3B or in your return, whatever the return it is, in the return that will be filed by you. So the businessman has to stop doing his business and should be on the behind of the supplier and ask him to pay the tax to the government, then and should crawl before the supplier, asking him to pay the tax to the government, because he will not get any input tax. See, this is the funniest part of this particular section, 16.2C. The Act says that if there is a mismatch which can be done from a flow chart in form 2B and 3A, it can deny the input tax credit. Section 2C of the GST Act, which is a scary provision, and a harshest provision of the GST clauses, which says that the availment of input tax credit by recipient of a supply is contingent upon payment of tax by supplier, either in cash or through utilization of admissible input tax credit in respect of the said supply. This is exactly what I have said to you in the earlier round of litigation. Unless the supplier pays the tax, the purchaser cannot claim. This is quite irrational and arbitrary and atrocious provision. To me, this section baffles the taxpayer, as he can do nothing but out of desperate situation scream loudly on the provisions. By seeing the provisions of the Act, what you can do by seeing the whatever that is done by your supplier, by seeing the form Gstr 1 and 2A that is automatically populated, by seeing all those things, what the recipient can do except screaming on the provisions of the Act. One thing the dealer, the recipient can do is approach the Honorable Court, knock the doors of the Honorable Court and get the relief. Question the provisions of the Act. These sort of provisions are there in the Act, which are highly atrocious in nature. If the government wants to curtail the hoodwinking of revenue, it has got some other means. But what is the provision? Until and unless the supplier pays the tax, the recipient cannot claim the input tax credit. Or else you remove the input tax credit, no problem. On the difference of value, you will be the tax, 18%, 5%, whatever the tax it is. Suppose if 100% is the cost of the goods that is supplied to me, I am selling at 10 rupees. 10 rupees should be taxed to me. I will only pay on 10 rupees. Forget about IDC. It is your botheration. It is a department botheration to catch hold of the suppliers and to collect the tax on them. After all, the department officers cannot in AC rooms sit and expect the supplier or the recipient to do the work that has to be done by the department officers. So this is the atrocious provision according to me, and this should be challenged. That some advantage occurs. Some advantages I find in the reconciliation, which is highlighted in Form Gstr 3B and 2A. The GST authorities have issued notices to a large number of taxpayers, asking them to reconcile the input tax credit claimed in a self-declared summary return. And if the reconciliation is done by both the parties, then this seems to be an advantageous position. Then Form Gstr 3B with auto-generated Form 2B and 2A, and the taxpayers required to reply to such notices or pay the differential amount if taxpayers by mistakenly has not shown the figures correctly. This is also, I think I'm clear in this. Then the reconciliation ensures that the credit is being claimed for the tax it has been actually paid to the suppliers. Whatever the tax that is paid to the suppliers, the reconciliation statement, if at all, if the supplier has not shown, or if at all the purchaser has not shown correctly, then the reconciliation statement provides for reconciling the taxes that has paid. Ensure that no invoices for the missed by recorded more than once. Only one time the invoices has to be recorded. If the recording of the invoices has been done quite a number of times, then you can reconcile those particular invoices. It also ensures a supplier to correct the discrepancies noted in Form Gstr 1 and the receiver to correct the errors in Form Gstr 3B forms. Now, however, the details of the Gstr 3B cannot be reconciled for the following reasons. This is important. The credit of IGST claimed on import of goods. Credit of IGST claimed on import of goods cannot be reconciled. IGST credit on import services cannot be reconciled. The credit of GST paid on reverse charge mechanism, etc. Suppose if you have supplied, suppose I have rendered the services as an advocate, so my client would be claiming the input tax credit or the reverse he pays the tax in a reverse charge mechanism and he claims it. Then, if supposedly a mistake has happened, that he cannot reconcile. Transitional credit claimed in Tran 1 and Tran 2, that cannot be reconciled. ITC for goods and services received in financial year 2020-21, but availed in 2021-22, that cannot be reconciled. Transition, some professionals may raise a doubt, sir, why should you trouble about transition 1? That is a gone business. The worry that is that transactions are over now. But let me tell you, friends, till now, even till today, I'm saying a number of cases on transitional credit, that issue is still open, even after almost all the GST was introduced 5 years. It is going to be fifth year. 4.5 years, the GST has been introduced. Still it is. However, the details of in the cases mentioned above, the figures will not reconcile as no corresponding form Gstr 1 is filed by the supplier or the ITC is being claimed at a later date. The figures will not reconcile. Suppose if Form 1 has been filed by the supplier and the ITC that you have to claim has been not claimed in the monthly return, then no reconciliation can be done with regarding to the ITC. if any mismatch are found in Gstr 2A and 3B, certainly the taxpayer has to pay the tax and interest thereon, which may also lead to imposition of penalty in certain cases. That I have said to you already. Now, let us come to the judgments on Gstr 2A versus 3B. The Honorable High Court have in Bar Aluminium Company Limited versus Union of India, that is the Chhattisgarh High Court, has stayed the order of the department denying ITC due to GSTR 2A and GSTR 2B mismatch on a condition that the petitioner deposited 5% amount out of the total sum denied within a period of 15 days. So, no absolute stay, no complete stay has been given, but 5% you pay within 15 days. So, rest of the amount we are going to stay, that is has been set by the Honorable Chhattisgarh High Court. Now, coming to 16.2c, Sahil Enterprises versus Union of India, Tripura judgment, this is. Honorable High Court has granted interim order for removing attachment of the tax credit amount. They have attached the tax credit available in the dealer's account. That has been ordered to remove the attachment when the Tripura High Court is dealing with section 16.2c, because constitutionality of section 2c, the virus of section 2c has to be challenged, and when the dealer has challenged the same before the Tripura High Court, the Tripura High Court has given this interim order. Then LGW Industries Limited and another versus Union of India and others. This is Calcutta High Court, where the writ petitions were allowed by remanding the matters to the authorities concerned with a direction to consider the objection that would be filed by the petitioner with reference to case law. So they have left it open. 16.2c, the virus of 16.2c is left open, and the dealer has asked to file objections by quoting the case laws. So they have remanded back the matter. DY Bethel Enterprises versus State Tax Officer, appeal number so and so, Madurai bench at Madras. This is what our chairman sir was referring to. High Court held that approach taken by the respondent authorities in reversing ITC available by the recipient without properly inquiring the sellers is incorrect and order for fresh inquiry in the matter. As far as I know, till today, this is the best judgment rendered by the Madras High Court, directing the authorities to first of all verify from the supplier whether the purchaser has claimed the ITC properly or not. When the authorities refer to the invoices of the purchaser, that is, if the authorities inquires with the supplier, then they will automatically know whether the seller has shown something more or shown correct figures. So they said that the ITC cannot be refused, cannot be reversed merely because there is a discrepancy or difference between the 2A and 3B or 16.2c. 16.2c is interconnected with 2A and 3B. To some extent, I would say to some extent, actually 16.2c, though actually it is not interconnected, because 2A Gstr 1, the supplier would be disclosing the invoices, and some invoices may be missing. Gstr 2A will be automatically populated. In Gstr 3B, the recipient would be claiming all the invoices. But what 16.2c says, unless the supplier pays the tax to the government, this is the difference. Suppose if supplier has shown all the invoices. Supplier has shown all the invoices in Gstr 2.1. It is automatically populated in 2A, and EB also it is properly calculated, and whatever the ITC that is available to the supplier has to the recipient has claimed. But 16.2C says that it is a further extended view. It says that unless everything is proper, okay, but see that the supplier has paid the tax, then only you can avail ITC credit. If not, you will not get any ITC credit. So Madras High Court has given a beautiful finding asking the department authorities to verify whether the ITC claimed by the recipient is on par with the supplier's ITC, and if it is a case of no mismatch, then you have to give the ITC. 16.2C has not been set aside. Likewise, 132 taxman.com 169. The Bombay High Court, virus of section 16.2C prescribing condition of payment of tax by supplier to avail ITC was challenged. Bombay High Court has issued notices and it is still in pendency. And Delhi High Court has also issued notices and it is still in pendency. That is a Federation of India Small Scale Battery Association versus Union of India. Then Taxman.com 67 Gujarat High Court, Surat Mercantile Association versus Union of India issued notices to the Attorney General of India to explain about 16.2C. What is this provision? How you are going to tax? How you can, that's what I said. The principle and agent. How you can tax the supplier? How you can tax the recipient? Explain us properly. Because if somebody does a mischief, you are catching hold of, you are denying the ITC available to the recipient. So in some cases, at least, the department authorities are asking, okay, if that fellow has not paid the tax, so you pay the tax and you claim it on a reverse charge mechanism basis. So I would like to tell you one thing. Suppose by accepting that the selling dealer has not paid the tax, the purchasing dealer has to pay the tax in the reverse charge mechanism. He will pay, right? He will pay the tax on the sales of his double taxation. Then he may get ITC, or there may be a possibility that there can be a query with regard to the claim. Now, what will the seller, what will the recipient will do? The recipient will levy the interest, that is, he will calculate the interest on the tax that he has to pay, on the tax that he has paid on behalf of the seller, and would pass on to end user. Here, let us make it very clear. End user is the scapegoat. It may be you, it may be me, or it may be the President of India. We are the end users. Forget about the professionalism for some time. We are the end users. So yesterday it was 10 rupees. Today it is 15 rupees. So what is the end user? What does the end user do? He cannot do anything. This is the thing. That's why the Honorable High Court has asked the Attorney General to give some, but the concept of principal and agent has not come to anybody's mind. I say that very proudly. That is, it is the invention of mine alone. None others have invented that the principal is government and the agent is the dealer. It is an indirect tax, not a direct tax, something that I have to pay from the pocket, something I have to collect and I have to pay. For that, you levy taxes, penalties, and interest. Penalty can be levied on the agent only if he does something wantonly. Penalty can be levied for these aspects. So then Supreme Court has refused the transfer petitions of Union of India pending before various high courts, challenging constitutional validity of Section 2C of the CCT Act. They are Cummins Technologies versus Union of India, that is pending in the MP High Court, but recently, very recently, it has got disposed of. The amount was paid to the department, but however, SLB Infrastructure Private Limited versus Assistant Commissioner of State Tax, Narsanapeta Circle, and others, Andhra Pradesh High Court. Though initially the Standing Council for the ST has submitted that they have got 90 days time, so we are not going to do anything. But later on, the High Court has granted interim order on the condition of paying 10% tax. Now, let us go back to value-added tax, because GST Act is nothing but a combination of VAT and Finance Act 1994 and the Central Excise Act. Let us not forget that there are the ITC provisions and some other there in the Central Act and Finance Act 1994 are being brought in, and VAT Act are being brought into the GST Act. Why I am saying Finance Act 1994 is an interesting topic. Well, before I become the Standing Counsel, I have challenged one writ petition before the High Court of Combined High Court of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. I have challenged the Finance Act 1994 prescribing levy on so-and-so products. I have said that this Finance Act 94 can be only implemented for the financial year 94-95. Then the Chief Justice Madan B. Lokur, he was the Chief Justice of the High Court. He has asked me, Kumar, how can you say this? I have said that, sir, every act should attain the permanency. Like Central Excise Act is there. It has attained its permanency in 1944. Customs Act there. It is attained its permanency. Income Tax Act is there. It attained its permanency in 1961. VAT Act is there. It has attained its permanency in 2005. Likewise, if service tax, the so-called service tax, has been levied by the department authorities or the union on the dealers, attains any permanency in nature, definitely the act would survive for a longer period until it is revoked. But the act cannot subsist for the period more than 94-95. Then he asked me, how from where you get this? I have shown him the Finance Act 1994 and the preamble. Then he has very interestingly, he said that you have raised a very beautiful point, my dear. I am granting you full stay. Then the matter has come up before the Honorable Justice Raghuram. Justice Raghuram has asked me whether there is any sunset clause, Kumar. I said, sir, in preamble, there is no sunset clause. Then he asked me, how can you say then? How the preamble need not be looked into. I said that preamble has to be looked into, because if there is no preamble, the Constitution of India cannot survive. Preamble has to be looked into. Then he said, have you any judgments to support your view? Then I have shown in 1961, Travancore case, Income Tax Act, the Supreme Court has said, until the amendments that are made in the Finance Act would attain permanency in nature if they are made to a permanent act, or else that should be treated as a temporary act. Then he was convinced and he has issued notices to the stand counsels and also the assistant solicitor general. So that case is still pending. So this Finance Act, all these things have come into force, and VAT Act has also come into force, and 13(3) AA, as I said, was introduced, asking the purchasing dealer to make the selling dealer to pay the tax to the government. How it is possible and how atrocious is that? These are the judgments under the VAT Act. 2022-135 tax fine 183. ITC cannot be denied to a buyer due to non-payment of VAT by seller. In the Honorable High Court of Andhra Pradesh, a writ petition by DW has been filed asserting the constitutional validity of Section 13(3)A of the AP VAT Act 2005, and the Honorable High Court has granted stay. Honorable Supreme Court, in SLP number 36750 of 2017, in 2008, filed by the Commissioner of Trade Taxes, Delhi, against the order of the judgment of the Delhi High Court, so and so, has given the judgment in favor of the traders. Honorable High Court of Madras has also given the judgment in favor of the dealers. Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court has also given the judgment in favor of the dealers. Similarly, Honorable Delhi High Court in so and so, and so and so and so. And the Honorable High Court of Telangana has also given the judgment. In all the above mentioned cases, the respective high courts have granted interim stay as far as these particular things here in the screen. Here on the screen, you can see these are the, in one case, Ganesh Press cases, I have also argued before the Honorable AP High Court in which a stay has been granted. These are the cases in which stay has been granted and not decided. 13(3) CCA has not been, 13(3) AA has not been decided. Now, as held by the Supreme Court in Tata Chemicals Limited versus Commission of Customs reported in 2015, 320 ELT 45, when law requires a particular thing to be done in a particular manner, it must be done in the manner only or not done at all. Therefore, the recipient cannot be asked to comply with the condition whether the supplier has paid the tax to the government, then ITC claimed will be denied, is, according to me, is ultra-vires in nature, because the Supreme Court judgment clearly says that what is the law proposing to levy or give to the dealer? The law is proposing to give the ITC to the dealer. Then how can the law, how can the act, how can the rules framed under can ask the dealer, that is the purchasing dealer, to see that the selling dealer pays the tax or not? Then only you will be eligible for ITC. Who asked you to give me the ITC? Who asked you to place such type of restrictions? Who asked you to cripple the business of mine? Who asked you to place me under suspension? Are these not the atrocious provision and ultra-vires and arbitrary provisions? Then doctrinal the doctrine of impossibility. Subba Rao, the chairman sir, has asked me to discuss about the doctrine of impossibility. The doctrine of impossibility has missed somehow in my this PowerPoint presentation. I am going to tell you about the doctrine of impossibility. The department cannot arbitrarily reject the ITC on account of mismatch between ITC claim from Gstr 3B vis-a-vis reflected in ITC Gstr 2A. Between these two, and as per section 16(2)(c) of the CGT Act, benefit of ITC cannot be denied to the taxpayer on account of default of the supplier over whom the taxpayer does not have any control. Kindly note this. Kindly note this because it is very important. He cannot, the purchasing dealer cannot have any control on the selling dealer. X has sold the goods to me. Can I have the control over the X and ask him that you pay the tax to the government when you are selling the goods to me? I cannot ask him because my business has to survive. And I don't know whether the supplier from whom I am purchasing the goods is paying the tax or would not pay the tax in future. So asking the seller dealer to verify whether the purchaser has paid the tax or not is a Herculean task on the selling dealer, which is an impossible task also on the selling dealer, because he doesn't have any control. Now at this juncture, the legal maxim, that is the legal principle, non cogit ad impossibilia. Non cogit ad impossibilia, that is the legal maxim, which is come from the Latin, comes into play that postulates that any law or that a law cannot compel a man to do that which cannot possibly be performed. So whether I can perform or not, whether I can go to that person and ask him to pay that or not. If you don't pay, I have to pay it. And if I pay under reverse charge mechanism, it will be double taxed. It is a double taxation provision, which is not permissible under law. Though the government has simply said that, no, we are going to give you the reverse charge mechanism, you claim the reverse charge. But initially I have to pay the tax that you have to pay, the tax I have paid to you. I'm only speaking about double taxation. Here comes the triple taxation. One, I have paid to the seller. Second, I am paying it to the government for not the seller paying the tax. Third one, I am paying the tax again on sale of the goods by me. Okay, forget about the third one because it is the tax that I have to pay. What about the tax that I have paid to the seller? What about the tax that the seller has not paid but I have to pay? So these are the things. The government simply says that, okay, you pay, you can claim. But Baba, we are giving you the benefit of, see, nothing, your money is not going anywhere. We are giving you the benefit. Now you can pay it and you can claim it. So who is the sufferer ultimately? These are the things which the government or the traders or the professionals are not looking into. So please look into these provisions and if at all necessary, challenge these provisions in the court of law. So friends, as said by me, the law cannot compel the noticee to do impossible. To ensure that to ensure that the law to ensure that the supplier has paid the tax to the government, and it is unjust to deny credit to the noticee on failure on the part of supplier to furnish details on the same in time. Gstr 1, suppose he has not furnished the details to the department, then auto-populated thing would not be showing Gstr 2B. Now, as the chairman sir has said, Gstr 2, 2A and all these things, they are not concerned. Once it is filed, we will see that and then we will give you. Then Gstr 3B, whatever the input tax that will be claimed would be curtailed. Those things cannot be done by the department or the government because the input tax depends upon the invoices. The input tax depends upon the invoices. I can claim the input tax by showing the invoices. I have paid the legitimate tax to the supplier. How can on electronically based forums you can deny the input tax to me? So this has to be challenged. This has to be challenged under the court of law by the traders. Then only we can get some relief. Then only we can truly project what are the provisions of the GST Act. Because I will say that the government is also not aware of these provisions. The government is also not aware of the hiccups that will be faced by the trade. But simply the council and the members sitting over there places some restrictions or make some amendments which has to be approved by the government. So friends, hope that I have presented the topic to the best of my possibility abilities. And if any sessions are there, you're always welcome, which will make me useful for the, or which will be useful for me in the future seminars that will be given by me. Thank you. This is my Guru and Mother Goddess Vijay Durga. With the blessings of them, be all safe. Thank you. Sunil, over to you. Venkatesh. Venkatesh.
Anna, I'm here, Anna.
Yeah.
Now, thank you so much to our beloved President, sir, who actually addressed a lot, for which the information is more and more, it is important to us. And moreover, it is much useful to us to proceed any law. Actually, the circular, which is the information which is provided by Chairman, sir, and the elaboration of the information which is provided by at your end also, clearly indicating that definitely there will be a challenge to the dealers where there is a possibility to get the favor consent also. Really a good remarks to us, and it's my humble request to our beloved tax fraternity mentor Sri M.K. Murthy Sir Garu to address all of us by giving his comments on this, sir. Thank you, sir. Murthy sir.
Unmute, Sunil, unmute.
Anand?
Unmute JD.
Chesanana.
Friends, I profusely thank Mr. Sunil for saying some nice words about me. And if I am not wrong, I recognize the presence of our old learned brother, Kadravali or Hyderabali from Kurnool. Thank you for taking interest in participating in this seminar. A very good topic has been selected for the speaker, learned speaker, to speak over the subject. This is the present burning topic cropping up everywhere throughout the country. The way in which the narration of the cases has been done by the learned speaker, it goes to show that the disallowance of ITC YD section 16(2)(c) has been creating a havoc as far as the input tax is concerned. Nevertheless, I would like to state that, as pointed out by the Honorable Supreme Court in a Bharti Airtel case and also TVS Motors case, that ITC is not a right. It is a statutory facility that has been conferred under the statute. Therefore, it cannot be considered as an absolute right or claim. But because it is provided under the statute, it is always conditioned. It is always conditioned. So if you look at section 16, there are certain conditions for the purpose of claiming the input tax credit. One is you must possess tax invoice. And the second one is goods must be in your possession. So there may not be any difficulty for complying with these these twin conditions. The problem that comes in the way of the claim is subclause clause C, by which it says, subject to the provisions of section 41, the input tax credit would be allowable, subject to the proof that the supplier has actually paid the tax. This is the phraseology used in the section, actually paid. And this phraseology has been imported from the provisions of various state VAT acts, which came to be subsumed into GST. But I don't know why the phraseology is already interpreted, explained, and declared by the highest court of the land is being again repeatedly used in the statutes by the framers of law. While framing the law, while framing the provisions, are they not supposed to look at whether a particular provision, a particular phrase has been dealt with by the judiciary or not? That must be the duty of the framers of the law. Actually paid. We have seen VAT Act also. As the learned speaker has pointed out, subsection 13(3)AA of VAT Act also, it has used the same word, actually paid. And the actually paid has been for the first time found in Income Tax Act. And that phrase came to be interpreted by the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of N.B. Sanjana, Assistant Commissioner of Income Tax, versus Elphinstone Spinning and Weaving Mills case, reported in AR 1971, SC 2039, where the Honorable Supreme Court considered the self-same phraseology and explained and interpreted that actually paid means ought to have been paid. So ought to have been paid by the supplier. Here, let us see, supplier is collecting the tax from the recipient in the invoice. Under what status, under what power, under what authority the supplier is collecting the tax? He is issuing a statutory declaration, namely tax invoice. And as far as the collection part of the tax is concerned, Section 32 of the CGST Act makes him an agent of the state for the purpose of the collection of the tax. And when you step into the shoes of the agent of the principal and collect the tax, you are bound to remit it to the government. And for any failure on the part of the supplier, is it justifiable to penalize the recipient who had already paid the tax to the supplier? So here I can put it very easily for your understanding that son has collected the amount from father, saying that I will repay the debts contracted by you. And son having collected the amount from the father, he fails to pay that amount to the lender. And ultimately, the father, instead of collecting the amount from the son, he wants to nab the grandson for the purpose of recovering that amount which he parted with the son. So what is the justification? And I have, after going through the language employed therein, I have stated before the High Court and the Supreme Court in some cases that as if it shows that as if it is the state is powerless. When a recipient produces the tax invoice mentioning the tax charged therein, which is a statutory document, is it not open for the department to take action against the erring supplier? And according to me, this provision to deny the input tax credit on the ground that the tax has not been actually paid by the supplier, it would amount to encouraging the erring persons. What will be the action that will be contemplated to be initiated against the supplier? That is altogether a different aspect. But at this part, immediately when you claim the ITC, you are denied the amount of ITC and you are asked to pay the whole amount of tax on your sale consideration. Therefore, the recipient, while being denied the ITC, is again asked to pay the tax on the entire consideration, which amounts to double taxation. Therefore, this aspect is also required to be considered, which would demonstrate the helplessness of the officials working under the Act. And why should you penalize the recipient having parted with the tax? So, but my respectable submission is, all right, see, learned speaker has stated and the learned chairman has also narrated about the pendency of the cases in various courts. That is a different aspect. But a day will come in the High Court or the Supreme Court, as the case may be, where I am appealing, why the law laid down by the Supreme Court, which is binding in terms of Article 141 of the Constitution of India, is not being considered by the government or the executive, as the case may be, or the state, I put it, state, while drafting the provisions of law. When a phrase has been interpreted and declared in such a manner, why any provision be drafted to go against that interpretation placed by this judiciary, the apex court of the land? So therefore, time has come to view the matter very seriously, and I will implore the courts to take a very stringent and stern action against the drafters also, because this is unnecessarily giving a lot of disputes, litigation, unnecessary litigation, avoidable litigation, and ultimately it is consuming a lot of the precious time of the court also. So therefore, this is an atrocious provision, there is no doubt about it. And let us hope that soon it will be decided by the AP High Court, because the Chief Justice is also in favor of disposing of the batch of writ petitions either way, because this provision is similar to 9(2)G, Section 9(2)G of Delhi VAT Act, Section 19 of Tamil Nadu VAT Act, and Section 8 of Haryana Value Added Tax, and all these provisions were considered by the respective high courts in the relevant cases, and they have read down those provisions to say that unless, while denying the input tax credit, unless the department establishes that there is fraud and collusion between the supplier and the recipient, you cannot deny the input tax credit. And those provisions were read down, and especially Delhi High Court judgment has gone to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court, they dismissed the SLP filed by the Commissioner of Delhi VAT Act. And thus, I can also say that the issue, even though settled under VAT Act, cannot be considered that an integra, a res integra of the issue. But people say that it might have been under the VAT Act, but you must get it struck down or read down under the GST Act also. So friends, let us do our best as far as the interpretation of law is concerned. And I know that what we said, the tone of speech or the degree of interpretation, that would naturally depend, and it will vary from an advocate appearing in the Supreme Court and the original practitioners. Nevertheless, we help the practitioners as well as the dealers to see that they are well protected under the provisions of the Act, and the law will protect them. And simultaneously, let us also make ourselves very clear that let us also be equipped with the developments and the changes that are taking place in law. As the Honorable Chairman has already stated, that two senior judges of the Gujarat High Court recently stated that going to the moon is very, very easy, but understanding the GST is very, very difficult. This is what has been recently told. But I also remember while interpreting the provisions of Income Tax Act in Andhra Pradesh High Court, Justice Syed Muhammad Qadir Saab and some other judge sitting on the bench, they, while dealing with income tax provisions, they said, what is this A, B, C, A alphabet, all alphabets, then AA, then AAA, then AAB, then AB, ABC, and explanations 1 to 6, and all capital letters, and all alphabets, and circulars. And they have also said that in spite of dealing with the matters and provisions of the law every day, Justice Qadri was pleased to say that I cannot fill up my return. I cannot fill up my income tax return, and it has to be filled up by my auditor. See, why should you create the tax laws very cumbersome, complexioned, and let them be simplified so that everybody will be able to know. And as the learned speaker and chairman has stated, that unfortunately, rather than the provisions of the law being administered, several notifications and several circulars, clarifications issued by the CBIC, they do play a dominant role in the administration of the GST law. And of course, friends, you all know that administration is by machines. There is no need for any use of the brain work. Everything is computerized, everything is dependent on machine. And if there is any breakdown in the system, we are all out. This is where the things are taking place. Anyway, let us hope for the best. And but what I say, I have been even as the past national president of All India Federation, and even presently the national president of National Association of Tax Professionals Ahmedabad, I have been continuously advocating that the practitioners should always equip them with the latest position in law, and then only we will be able to compete with our counterparts elsewhere in the universe. So, this is practitioners, advocates, judges, and other things. We are all students forever. We are all learners. And there is none who can claim an authoritative person despite acquiring or earning the zenith in the academic qualification. That is altogether different. But as far as the law is concerned, nobody is authoritative. So we should learn, we should read, and we should understand, and we should explain, and we should interpret, and we should advise the practitioners and the council. Friends, I am very much helpful and for giving me this opportunity. And I request the organizers to arrange a one-day seminar on the issue of levy of GST on works contract services. That is also a gray area which also catches the fire. How many times we have to pay GST? Whether subcontractor is liable to pay GST, while the main contractor is also liable to pay tax. And who has to be nipped with the demand, with the liability. So that is also a good topic. And for some time, after some time, you may consider that. And if time permits and if my professional schedule permits, I'll take up that issue, and I would like to deliver speech on that, so that I will share my knowledge and views with all of you, so that you will also be benefited. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot once again, sir. In fact, భగవంతుడే వచ్చి నేను వరాలు ఇస్తాను అంటే కాదని ఎవరంటారు సార్? ఖచ్చితంగా దాన్ని యూటిలైజ్ చేసుకోవడానికి ప్రయత్నం చేస్తాం సార్.
కొంచెం మీ వీడియో ఆన్ చేయండి, కొంచెం
దీన్ని చక్కగా వినియోగించు. అండ్ మోర్ ఓవర్ మీరు చెప్పినట్టుగా రిగార్డింగ్ ది వర్క్స్ కాంట్రాక్ట్, దెర్ ఇస్ ఎస్పెషల్లీ రిగార్డింగ్ దిస్ గవర్నమెంట్ కాంట్రాక్ట్స్, there are many issues nowadays been happening, like the 2% TDS is deducting late by the government, and moreover in between the invoices raised by the contractor itself is giving they need to pay the tax as per the provisions, and they don't know whether this 2% refund is going to get by them or not. In this concern, they were unable to understand the proceedings what they were such a scenario.
Actually on works contract,
yeah,
it is a topic where not even one day seminar would be sufficient. One day seminar, one topic is sufficient, one day. Like that, correct. I think that almost all 1 month, not even 1 month, I think every week we should have a session on one topic, like government contracts, like the previous contracts, and whether the GST is leviable on the contract, because the contracts are entered in VAT period. Now GST at a higher rate is leviable under the GST. What would be the tax that has to be paid? If at all tax has to be paid by the contractor, then whether the contract amount has to be increased or not. All these topics are there. A lot of topics are there. It is not even one day seminar.
Yeah, it is better that we can have one session, especially on works contract a day, and another day, especially on this glitches on GST. Specifically, we have two eyes in the tax fraternity in both the states, where we can take this opportunity of requesting both the consents, the lines of this tax fraternity, so that we can continue really on behalf of Tax Bar Association, on AP Tax Bar Association, on behalf of Telangana Tax Practitioners and Consultants Association, and also the AP Tax Practitioners and Consultants Association, will have such a good seminar. And now it's a time like the conclusion is very much appreciated. Like Murthy sir has given a clear comment about the situations is appreciated. It's a very thank you so much. Particularly the scenario, it seems like the purchaser, whoever going to purchase any material, now he need the security until the supplier is going to make the tax payment and file the GSTR1. So there is such a two options according to me. Is one, it is to hold this tax payment until, including the interest amount also, until the GSTR1 is going to upload by the supplier and pay the tax. Another one option. Another option, otherwise or else section 9(4) has to be amended and allow all the purchasers to go for reversal charge mechanism, and simultaneously all the provisions, whichever that unutilized input tax credit on all the provisions, not only the export or any SEZ, all the provisions, and even this inverted duty structure itself. Without that, all the provisions should be allowed for providing the refund only. It might be some sort of the problems can be sorted out. And today this discussion is so much appreciated. Like the beginning of the session, it seems like 89 members. Normally the end of the session might take an extent of 30-40 like that, but today the standard gathering, it seems like 50 they made stand, really appreciated. And we hope that as advised by our beloved PV Subba Rao sir garu, and definitely will take the initiation of conducting these seminars in first. Actually, our motto of AP Tax Bar also to conduct the seminars in first week of the Saturday and last week of the Saturday. But unfortunately, being recent many issues been arising, like tax boards, and also now last month, whatever the program we have conducted in end of the month, we were decided to go for conducting on second Saturday, even though that one also been postponed because of not getting prepared. Definitely this time we'll go for conducting this standard basis seminars to be conducted in first week of the January month, and end of the fourth week of the Saturday, which will be much utilizable for all the purposes to all the concerns. My special thanks to our beloved loving brother, and now especially for the purpose of a tax practitioners and taxpayers also, wherever the issues arises, I am there, don't worry, I'm for you, like that. Such an energy who is going to give is none other than my beloved brother MBJK Kumar sir. Thank you so much, Kumar sir. This is the second session which you have continued and given such a tremendous knowledge to all of us. It is much useful to us, where today's circulars and today's your elaboration of the subject seems there is such an argument we made that authority also in future concerns, like because Nagesh Rangi sir also raised many questions. You only have provided such an answers today, and Subba Rao sir also has provided such an answers today, is so appreciated. Thanks a lot once again to all of you. Thank you so much. And there is some queries I noticed, like
అన్న ఒక నిమిషం సెషన్ గురించి అన్న సునీల్ అన్న ఒకసారి చైర్మన్ సార్ మాట్లాడమంటారు.
ప్లీజ్ సార్, ప్లీజ్
సార్. పివి సుబ్బారావు గారు సార్. సార్ సుబ్బారావు సార్. సుబ్బారావు సార్.
Before the sir concerned, David, Venkatesh, you please proceed to go for some questions is raised in the chart.
Wait, man, just a second.
Sunil garu,
Subba sir vacharu.
Yeah, kindly allow me to take lunch. Thank you all. Thank you.
Yeah, Sunil.
Questions చూస్తున్నా సార్, ఒక సెకండ్ సార్. సార్ సంతోష్ కుమార్ గారు ఒక క్వశ్చన్ అడిగారు సార్. IGST paid under customs duty is not appearing in Gstr 2A. Whether assessee is entitled to take ITC. Customs పరిధిలో మనం IGST పే చేస్తాం కదా సార్, ఇంపోర్ట్ ఆఫ్ గుడ్స్ అప్పుడు.
No.
2A లో అప్పీర్ కదా, దాని చెప్తాను.
It is appearing in 2B also. Whichever the goods is importing by a dealer and paying the IGST at the time of importing the goods, it is based on the IGST which is paying by them. He is appearing in 2A and 2B both. It is appearing.
Right now.
Only he cannot reconcile.
Yes, sir.
Reconciliation కి అతనికి ఛాన్స్ లేదు, అంతేగాని క్లెయిమ్ చేయకూడదని లేదు. ITC కెన్ బి క్లెయిమ్.
లేదన్నా, రికన్సిలేషన్ ఉందన్న, ఇప్పుడు ఇచ్చారు. అంటే 2020 వరకు లేదన్నా, 20 కూడా ఉంది. రీసెంట్ డేస్ లోనే ఉంది అది. ఏమంటే అది ఇది వరకు అయితే మనకి 2B లో 2A లో వచ్చేది కాదన్నా. ఇప్పుడు రికన్సిలేషన్ లో ఈవెన్ 9C 9 లో కూడా మార్చారన్న కొద్దిగా.
ఐ డోంట్ థింక్ సో. సరే, ఇప్పుడు నేను అంటే వాట్ ఎవర్ ద సీనియర్ పర్సన్, సీనియర్ అడ్వకేట్ ఆఫ్ ది సుప్రీం కోర్ట్ హెస్ సెడ్, అంటే కొంచెం డిపార్ట్మెంట్ కి ఫేవర్ గా మాట్లాడదామని. ఇప్పుడు చూసిన డిపార్ట్మెంట్ కి ఎగరెస్ట్ గా మాట్లాడుతున్నాడు వీడు, లాభం లేదనుకుంటారు. ఇప్పుడు వ్యాట్ కింద ఇచ్చిన జడ్జ్మెంట్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, ఆల్ దోస్ జడ్జ్మెంట్స్ ఆఫ్ ది వ్యాట్ యాక్ట్ విత్ రిగార్డ్ టు ది క్లెయిమ్ ఆఫ్ ది ITC, where the supplier has to pay the tax and you have to see that the supplier has paid the tax or not. అవన్నీ కూడా ఏంటంటే ఆఫ్టర్ ఇంట్రొడక్షన్ ఆఫ్ ది GST Act has been decided by the Supreme Court. అందుకని సో ఇట్ డజంట్ మీన్ దట్ those judgments have to be implemented by the government under the GST Act also. కానీ ఒక గవర్నమెంట్ నోటీస్ తీసుకెళ్ళి మనం ఏదైనా చెప్తే బాగుంటుందేమో అని. బట్ ఎనీవే దే హ్యావ్ ఛాలెంజ్డ్ బిఫోర్ ది హై కోర్ట్స్ అండ్ సుప్రీం కోర్ట్, సో దట్ విల్ బి యూస్ఫుల్ ఫర్ దెమ్.
నో క్వశ్చన్ సార్. నా సెషన్ ఇంకా కంక్లూడ్ చేశాను.
Sunil. So thank you, friends.
Anna. Thank you. Thanks a lot once again to all the participants who joined with us all the way from Delhi, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and especially Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. There is no words to express. My special thanks to all the associations of Telangana Tax Practitioners and Consultants Association, AP Tax Practitioners and Consultants Association, who mingled with AP Tax Bar Association to conduct these seminars. Since from 2 continuous seminars has been happening like that, and expecting the future support also will be continued like this to had many seminars like this. And as per the suggestion of our MVK Murthy sir, definitely will have direct this offline seminar like without virtual can be conducted very shortly with the directions of our beloved president of the AP Tax Bar Association. Shortly we'll do. Thanks a lot once again to all of you.
We have the participants from Kanpur also, UP.
Yeah. Excellent.
And so like this, we are planning to mingle with Karnataka also from next session.
Yes, Anna.
Karnataka practitioners has yesterday called me and he has asked me, the chairperson of this Karnataka Tax Practitioners Association, the president has asked me that they would like to join with the 3 fraternities. So I said, you are most welcome. After knowledge has to be shared by one and all. That's
it is better we can involve this association also with us, which 4 associations can be continued. No?
Yes. And if the gentleman Umesh Pandey from Kanpur, he also talks to his association, and he also gets someone else from the association. It would be more helpful to us. Yeah.
Even in the chart also, many people been appreciated today's seminar, which is actually much useful to all the people. Really tremendous session been happened today, Anna. Thanks a lot once again.
Thank you once, sir.
Thank you, one and all, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, one and all to all. One and all.
Thank you so much.
Venkatesh,
Thank you,
thank
thank you,
Venkatesh. Thank you so much, especially to you.
Thank you, Anna.
Since from the
thank you,
beginning,
Kumar
you
garu,
know-
Sunil and Venkat. Thank you.
Thank you, Rangi garu. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
sir.
much, sir.
Rangi sir,
Thank
I,
you.
I love you.
Oh,
Shall I end the session, sir?
You the person
Yeah,
who always motivate me to send many messages. Thanks a lot once again, Nagesh sir.
thank you, Sunil.
Yeah.